Chapter 160. Something strange bit me. That mountain was not very expensive. When everyone had money, they would buy fertile land first. Few people were willing to take such a mountain that was suitable for planting fruit trees. After all, fruits were not easy to grow and sell. One was expensive. Rich people had their own manors and orchards and rarely bought fruits outside. Those who didn't have money couldn't afford them. If they wanted to eat fruits, they would go to the mountains to pick some wild sweet fruits. Secondly, it was not easy to preserve them. There were too many plants. Once they matured in one go, they had to be sold quickly, or they would rot. However, everyone was from the countryside and had no channels or connections. At most, they would be dragged to the county city. Hence, Yundong bought the 30 acres of land for 120 taels of silver. As soon as she paid, she instantly felt that her money was a little tight again. Since she had already bought the land, Shao said to her, "If you want to plant sugarcane, we can start preparing sucrose ditches on the ground now and choose the seedlings." Yundong knew that sugarcane was usually planted from February to April. It could be harvested from November to April. It was November in the lunar calendar, so the preliminary preparations could begin. In this aspect, Shao and his wife were still the best. Yundong left it to them. Yundong wrote an agreement in front of the village chief and asked him to be a witness. She gave them 20 taels of silver in advance so that they could choose the seedlings. As for whether the two of them could handle it and whether they needed to hire people, that was up to them. Yundong was not afraid that they would not be able to control the workers. Wasn't Zhongfei around? That kid actually cared a lot about his parents and family. Both parties pressed their hand prints. Shao hand that was holding the 20 taels of silver trembled slightly. He did not expect Yundong to trust him so much. Wasn't he afraid that he would take her money? After settling this matter, Yundong was relieved. The house had been built, the mountain had been bought, and the sugarcane had been taken care of. As for the planting of other fruits, she still had to get Shao to help search for suitable land when he was free. If he didn't even have land, he really wouldn't be able to do anything. Yundong returned to the new house in a relaxed manner. At this moment, Madame Yang and the two children were walking around the house, looking very happy. Seeing her return, they immediately surrounded her. "Eldest sister, when are we moving in?" Yunshu liked the new house very much. He had never thought that he could have such a big room and a study. "The furniture will be here in 2 days. Let the sun shine for another 10 days before we move in." Yundong also wanted to move in as soon as possible. Although Dong Xiaolan's family was not bad, it was more comfortable to live in her own house. She pointed at the main room in front of her and said, "That room is for father and mother. Other than that room, you can choose any." Yunshu pointed to the room on the left. "I choose that one." Yundong looked at Yunka again, but the young girl suddenly hugged her leg. "Do I have to live alone? It's scary. Something strange is biting my hand." Yundong was stunned. Yes, she was only 3 years old. She was still too young. She picked up the little girl. "Then Kiki will sleep with mother. When you grow up, you can choose a room you like, okay?" She was going to stay in a room by herself anyway. The little girl immediately nodded. "Okay." Then, she whispered into Yundong's ear, "Mother is also afraid. I'll accompany mother." Yundong looked at Madame Yang. As expected, when she heard that she was sleeping with Yunka, she heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She had been negligent. Although her mother was an adult, her mind was similar to Kiki's. Yundong could not help but look at Yunshu. Chapter 161. Cart of Sugarcanes. The little boy seemed to have thought of something and looked uneasy. Yundong rubbed her forehead. "All right, actually, this kid was also afraid, but he just didn't say it. Yunshu, can you accompany mother and sister for a while more?" This house was big after all, and it was a brand new and unfamiliar place for them. Yunshu was only 5 years old. After the excitement of seeing a new house had passed, she still felt very uneasy. After all, in the old Gu family, their family of 5 only had 1 room. Gu Yunshu immediately puffed out his chest. I am not afraid. There was no such thing as ghosts. Yes, his father had once said that strange powers did not disturb the mind. What third uncle had said about hanging headless ghosts in the past was all lies. Of course Yunshu isn't afraid, but the weather is cold now. You'll catch a cold easily if you sleep alone. When spring comes, you can stay in any room you want. Okay. Gu Yunshu nodded vigorously. Then, he lowered his head and quietly exhaled. Gu Yundong immediately smiled. She took the 2 children's hands and walked to the room. She started talking about the decorations. Gu Yunshu had carefully planned her room. There was a desk here and a cabinet there. Gu Yunka was much simpler. The young lady was a little vain now and said that she wanted to plant flowers in the room. Previously, Xingyu had brought her to the foot of the mountain to pick some wild flowers. She had brought back a lot and placed them in a corner, saying that they smelled good. Madame Yang didn't say anything. In any case, she would nod no matter what the 2 children said. By the time the family of 4 finished exploring all the rooms, it was almost time for dinner. Shao Qingyuan had just returned, but there was a carriage behind him. He pulled the carriage into the backyard of Gu Yundong's new house. She lifted the curtain and saw that it was filled with sugarcane. Gu Yundong looked at him in surprise. There was still sweat on Shao Qingyuan's forehead on such a cold day, but the corners of his mouth were slightly cracked. He smiled and said, I've caught up with Liu Yi. Don't worry, he promised not to tell his family. He knows that you need sugarcane to make sugar, so he asked me to pull the sugarcane planted in his village. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. No wonder he came back so late. After some thought, she asked Shao Qingyuan, it's free, right? Ahem, of course. Shao Qingyuan lowered his head slightly. He wanted to laugh but held it in. Gu Yundong nodded in satisfaction. At least he knows a little about the ways of the world. She could help him win too, perhaps more shops later. She saw Shao Qingyuan's travel-worn appearance and thought about how he had helped her keep an eye on Gu Xiener even though he hadn't eaten much for lunch. Later on, he had chased after Liu Yi to transport the sugarcane. She immediately felt a little guilty. She seemed to be ordering him around too naturally. Why didn't this person know how to refuse? What do you want to eat tonight? I'll make it for you. Shao Qingyuan thought for a moment and said in a low voice, egg-fried rice. All right, rest first. It'll be done soon. She rolled up her sleeves and went to the Zheng family's kitchen. Shao Qingyuan looked at her back and shook his hand slightly. His eyes were deep and there was a smile on his lips. In the next 2 days, the furniture for the new house arrived. Gu Yundong also moved the sugar-making tools to the new house. After all, the courtyard here was big and there was a well. It was much more convenient. Liu Yi came again the next day. He said in a hurry that the Tao family had indeed gone to find trouble with him. He was beaming with joy as he recounted how he had tricked the Tao family. Just as Gu Yundong despised him for spouting saliva, Sherdashan came knocking on her door. Chapter 162, Shao Qingyuan gave silver. Gu Yundong secretly heaved a sigh of relief. She quickly escaped from Liu Yi's torment and ran out of the door. Sherdashan was sweating profusely, but his face was filled with excitement. When Gu Yundong let him in, he immediately waved his hand and said, Yundong, didn't you say that you wanted to find more fruit forests? There are 50 acres of fruit forest in Omping village next door. A landlord in town urgently needed money and took them out to sell. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. Omping village was not far away and there were 50 acres. That was a rare opportunity. Sherdashan continued, that land was originally planted with fruit trees. It's a good land. It's just that the landowner doesn't know how to plant them, so the fruits they produce are astringent. 2 years ago, they cut down fruit trees and planted some other things. The harvest wasn't very good, so they didn't manage it very well. Now that they're selling it, the price should be able to be lowered. It's just that the landowner asks the buyer to buy all 50 acres. This, at the end, Shao was a little worried. It would cost a lot of money to buy this land. He did not know if she had enough. Yundong also calculated the money in her heart. She could not help but frown. She was tight on money. However, her eyes quickly lit up. She said to Shao, "I'll borrow the silver from someone else first. Uncle Dashan, help me go to Onping village and ask around. See if there's anyone else who wants to buy it and how much you can lower the price." "All right." Shao immediately turned around and left. He happened to know someone in Onping village. It was Gaoxing's father, Zhao Zhu. Due to Gaoxing's close relationship with Zhuangzi, he had interacted with Zhao Zhu a lot. After a while, he became much more familiar with him. Yundong also hurried back to her room to look for Liu Wei. Coincidentally, with such a rich young master around, it was not difficult to borrow money. When the sugar was sold for a good price later, she would have the ability to return the money to him. At most, she would only need the money for liquidity for half a month. Unexpectedly, when she reached the front yard, she did not see Liu Wei, who was still talking confidently just now. There was only Shao Qingyuan there. "Where's young Master Liu?" Shao Qingyuan was holding a hoe and helping her rummage through the garden in the front yard. When he heard this, he stopped and said, "He left." "Left?" F***ck, who said that he would talk about tricking Tao for a day and a night? She had only turned around to talk to Uncle Dashan, and he had already left? Shao Qingyuan leaned the hoe against the wall. "I think he suddenly remembered something urgent. Why are you looking for him? He shouldn't have gone far yet. I'll call him back." With that, he was about to leave. Yundong recalled that he had also run to chase after Liu Wei, who was sitting in the carriage. In the end, he did not even eat lunch or dinner and looked exhausted. She hurriedly called out to him, "Wait, I'm fine," although she said that, her brows were still slightly furrowed. Suddenly, she looked up at Shao Qingyuan. Yes, if Liu Wei wasn't around, wasn't there still Shao Qingyuan? Yundong immediately walked to his side with a smile and coughed lightly. There was an obvious purpose on her face. Shao Qingyuan raised his eyebrows. "What's wrong? Can you lend me some silver?" Not long ago, Shao Qingyuan had brought Liu Wei to the mountains to hunt 2 roe deers and a tiger. Liu Wei was generous and had promised to give him 100 taels of silver as long as Shao Qingyuan brought him into the mountains to hunt roe deers. In the end, Shao Qingyuan not only caught 2 roe deers, but also a tiger. In the end, he even saved Liu Wei's life. Yundong did not ask how much money was given, but it was definitely a lot. "Wait for me." Shao Qingyuan didn't even ask why she wanted money. He turned around and returned to his house. Not long after, he came over with a box. "Here you go." Yundong was stunned. Wasn't this too straightforward? She slowly opened the box. The next second, her eyes widened. Chapter 163, Yundong's decision. Yundong raised her head in a daze and looked at the calm person opposite her. She reached out and took out the banknotes from the box. She counted them again and again. 800 taels, he actually had 800 taels of silver. This person was actually an invisible tycoon. In the entire Yongfu village, there was probably no one richer than him. But the problem was, you have so much money, yet you still eat dry steamed buns, live in a dilapidated house, and wear clothes filled with patches. Even if you didn't know how to cook, hiring someone shouldn't be a problem, right? There was no need to live like a refugee. Shao Qingyuan glanced at the banknotes in her hand. His eyes were as calm as if it was just a few ordinary pieces of paper. There was no emotion in them. After a while, he said, "It doesn't matter. I'm all alone." Yundong suddenly paused. She actually felt that his words made her heart ache for some reason. Yes, he had always been alone. He had no family or friends. Even in the Zheng family, he kept a distance from them. He was neither close nor on good terms with them. The people in the village regarded him as a ferocious beast. When children saw him, they would avoid him as much as possible. He was a loner. Whether he had money or not, it was meaningless to him. He just needed to eat his fill and wear warm clothes. He did not need a higher quality of life. Everyone called him a wolf cub, but Yundong had never seen him do anything to hurt others. Even if he did, it was someone else who provoked him first, or a hooligan like Liang. She didn't know why Shao Qingyuan's attitude was so cold even after his grandfather died, but she believed that there must be some unknown reason. Yundong tightened her grip slightly. For a moment, her mood became a little complicated. After a long time, she slowly exhaled and said, 300 taels should be enough for me. She took out 6 banknotes worth 50 taels and handed the box over. Shao Qingyuan shook his head and didn't take it. I'll give it all to you. You can use it. If it's not enough, I'll think of another way. Shao Qingyuan, money is useless by my side. You should still buy land and fruit trees. There are many places where you need to spend a lot of money. You can buy land, too. Shao Qingyuan paused and said in a low voice, the village won't sell the land to me. Why not? Yundong was surprised. As far as she knew, although Liang was not very close to Shao Qingyuan, he would not have any bad opinions of him. He was just like an ordinary villager. It was not to the extent that the village chief would not sell the land to him, right? Shao Qingyuan didn't think there was anything inappropriate to say. Everyone in the village knew about this. When I left the Li family back then, in order to repay them for raising me, I promised in front of the village chief and everyone that I wouldn't buy an acre of land. Yundong was so angry that she wanted to laugh. You're not allowed to buy land just because they raised you. That's ridiculous. What were you thinking back then? Back then, as long as I could sever ties with the Li family, any conditions wouldn't be difficult. Perhaps because of the past, Shao Qingyuan's gaze gradually became a little cold. Seeing this, Yundong quickly changed the topic. Forget it. It's all in the past. Then your 800 taels, you use it. Shao Qingyuan's tone was firm. Yundong pursed her lips and looked up at him, then at the banknotes in his hand, and then at him. After a while, she suddenly seemed to have made a major decision and looked at Shao Qingyuan solemnly. Chapter 164, Buying another 50 acres. Since you know that in making white sugar, you should have guessed that I'll definitely turn this into a business in the future. Yundong said, how about this? Since you have no use for the silver, I'll use this silver as a share for you. When the time comes, I'll give you 20% of the profits from selling white sugar. How about that? She thought for a moment and added, but it's just the sugar business. If I have other businesses in the future, you won't have a share. Yundong had thought about it. She was the only one who knew how to refine white sugar. She had a lot of things to do. In the future, she would have to make dried sweets and fruits. She would have to find someone she could trust to share the burden. Shao Qingyuan was alone without any relatives or friends. Moreover, he was brave and resourceful. He was not a soft-hearted person. Most importantly, she realized that this person had a tacit understanding with her. Working with such a person would save her a lot of trouble. Most importantly, she realized that Shao Qingyuan was very obedient. Of course, there was also her hidden selfishness. Shao Qingyuan was stunned. He didn't expect her to make such a suggestion to involve him in what she was doing. He clenched his fists by his side, as if he was trying his best to control the emotions in his eyes. Seeing that he did not speak in a long time, Yundong asked softly, do you think it's too little? Then, 10%. Shao Qingyuan suddenly looked up and interrupted her. 10% is enough. Isn't it a little too little? Why did she feel an inexplicable sense of guilt? It's enough. It's enough. His eyes were bright as he looked at Yundong and smiled. In the future, I'll do whatever you want me to do. There was no need to find an excuse. Yundong was speechless. These words sounded strange. But the matter was settled. Yundong received 800 taels of silver and signed an agreement with Shao Qingyuan. Yundong immediately went to the neighboring village and bought the 50 acres of fruit forest. The crops in the field were indeed not good. She did not know how the landlord planted them. As the landlord was in a hurry, and very few people could buy 50 acres of land in one go, Yundong's glib tongue kept lowering the price. In the end, they agreed on 8 taels per acre, which cost her 400 taels. Yundong felt that this money was really easy to go. It went out in a flash. She asked Shao to help find fruit trees suitable for planting. She did not plan to plant sugarcane in these 50 acres. Once everything was settled, Yundong focused on making sugar again. Liu Yi came again every 2 days to check on the progress, but he was chased away by Yundong. If you come here every day, what if the Tao family finds out that something is wrong? If you expose white sugar in advance, you will lose your bet. Liu Yi suddenly reacted. Yes. You're right. I'll go back now. When I go back, I'll pretend that I'm at my wit's end and fly into a rage. I'll let them be smug for a few days. With that, he hurried home. The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. Now that she was working with Shao Qingyuan, she naturally handed him the method to make sugar. Since Shao Qingyuan dared to hand over all his assets to her, Yundong naturally would not let him down. There was no need to hide the method of making sugar. It had to be said that Shao Qingyuan got the hang of it much faster than her. With his help, their speed became much faster. After another day, Yundong carried more than 20 caddies of white sugar to the county city. Chapter 165. Little Liu Yi. Yundong went to the Liu residence. Because of Liu Yi's instructions, she was not stopped when she entered. Liu Yi was very happy to see her. He was even happier to see the 20 caddies of white sugar. He took it and was about to leave. Yundong could not take it anymore and kicked him. Didn't we agree on 10 days? It's not time yet. But isn't it already 20 caddies? Liu Yi felt wronged. If he counted enough caddies, he could throw it at Tao Xing's face. Yundong secretly suppressed the anger in her heart. So have you forgotten the second point I mentioned last time? The second point? Liu Yi thought for a while and finally remembered. Backer? Yes. Yundong glared at him fiercely. I'm going to look for Wenzheng now to test his intentions. Your brother hasn't gone to school yet, right? Find me a clean servant's clothes. Why do you want the servant's clothes? To send your brother to school. She had specially woken up early in the morning and waited for the city gate to open before coming over. Did he think she had nothing better to do? Seeing that she looked like she wanted to eat him up, Liu Yi hurriedly went to look for Luan. Go. Find a new set of clothes. Luan quickly took out a set of clothes. They were a little big. Fortunately, the weather was cold now. Yundong could just put them on outside. Then, Liu Yi went to his younger brother's courtyard and told his younger brother's servant that he would personally send him to school today. In the end, as soon as he led his brother Liu Yi to the door, he handed him over to Yundong. This was the first time Yundong had seen Liu Yi's younger brother. He looked to be about the same age as Yunshu, but his tense face and hands behind his back made him look like a little adult. Liu Yi was not surprised to see Yundong. On the way here, his brother had said that a friend of his would send him there today. It seemed that this was the person. Liu Yi nodded at her and pointed at the book box at the side. Take it and let's go. Then, he got the coachman to carry him into the carriage. Yundong looked at the book box and could not help but laugh. She followed him into the car. You're nothing like your brother. Liu Yi nodded and said with a serious expression, Father said that eldest brother can't be put in an important position. I have a huge responsibility and will support the entire Liu mansion in the future. Yundong wanted to laugh but did not dare to. However, Liu Yi continued, since you're my brother's friend, I hope you can persuade my brother to read and write more often in the future and not take him to places he shouldn't go." Yundong asked, "What do you mean by places he shouldn't go?" Liu Yi thought for a long time but couldn't think of anything. His little face turned red. How could he know what was a place he shouldn't go? It was just that when his parents said so, he learned it. But when he saw Yundong's curious expression, he could only straighten his neck and say in a childish voice, "You know what it is." Then, he changed the topic and urged the coachman to set off quickly. Yundong felt that this child was quite interesting. If Yunshu became his classmate in the future, it would definitely be interesting. Thinking of this, she was looking forward to seeing Wenzheng. However, what she did not expect was that just as she set off, another carriage came from outside the Liu residence. As soon as the carriage stopped, a young man got out. In the Liu residence, old Master Liu had just heard that a girl had entered the residence to look for his son. He wanted to ask Liu Wei to come over and clarify things, but he suddenly heard the butler say that Wenzheng had come. He immediately ignored his son and went forward. Unexpectedly, when Wenzheng saw him, he frowned slightly and said, "How did this matter blow up so much? Now that the entire county knows that your Liu family can produce white sugar, why didn't you suppress this matter?" Chapter 166, The Liu family's backer suppress it? Speaking of this, old Master Liu was so angry that he gritted his teeth. It's all that prodigal son's fault. I wanted to suppress it, but just as I spoke to old Master Tao, Liu Wei had already made a bet with Tao Xing in front of everyone in the city. What else can I say? Wenzheng did not expect Liu Wei to be so unreliable. This matter had blown up too much. If it was not contained, someone would make a big deal out of it. Wenzheng had some friendship with the Liu family. Old Master Liu was a concubine's son of his uncle's family. When he was young, he was forced to leave home. He happened to meet the current emperor, who was only the sixth prince at that time. Coincidentally, he became the sixth prince's subordinate. Later, he had been secretly helping the sixth prince. Old Master Liu and his cousin had a good relationship when they were young. After the sixth prince became the crown prince, the Liu family's status naturally rose. However, the late emperor was still alive at that time, so he couldn't show it openly. The Liu family was also instructed to keep a low profile and stay in Fengkai County as an ordinary merchant. Back then, Wenzheng had almost been killed in the imperial court. It was this uncle of the Liu family who had saved him and connected him to the crown prince at that time. He listened to the crown prince and temporarily retired from the capital. Later, he traveled all over the rivers and mountains and finally settled down in Fengkai County. It was also the suggestion of the Liu family's uncle, and he received old Master Liu's help. Now that the late emperor had passed away and the new emperor had ascended the throne, Uncle Liu could slowly surface from behind and appear in front of others. Now that he was in the midst of preparations, it was time to keep a low profile. However, there was the matter of making sugar. It would have been fine if it was just a commotion in the county. The problem now was that even the prefectural city knew about this. Early this morning, Prefecture Magistrate Dai had sent someone here to tell him that someone might make a big deal out of this. Wenzheng naturally did not want anything to happen to the Liu family, so he looked for old Master Liu. Old Master Liu was so worried that his hair was going bald. "I've gotten someone to investigate. It seems that a country girl has spread the news that she has the ability. I don't know what's wrong with Liu Wei. He even believed such words. Previously, he was provoked by Tao Xing to bet on 2 shops. It's fine. Our family can afford the loss. Just treat it as a lesson. Who knew that 2 days ago, he went to that Yongfu village and came back crazy. He went to teach his son a lesson, but this brat didn't let him interfere. He didn't even tell him what was going on and even found him annoying. He was simply an unfilial son. Indeed, it was a wise move for him to nurture his youngest son, Liu Yi. Actually, he had originally planned to get someone to go to Yongfu village today to find that woman. Previously, when he heard that a woman came to look for Liu Wei, old Master Liu guessed that it was most likely her. Wenzheng also found it strange. He had seen Liu Wei before. Although he didn't like to study and wasn't smart, he wouldn't be so unreliable in the face of important matters. Where is he? I'll go see him. Wenzheng was thoughtful and felt that Liu Wei was a little strange. To blindly believe a woman's words, could it be that he had fallen into a relationship that he could not extricate himself from? Old Master Liu nodded repeatedly. All right, follow me. He was also about to look for him. The two of them hurried towards Liu Wei's courtyard. Unexpectedly, as soon as they stepped into the courtyard, they heard Liu Wei laughing loudly. That voice frightened Old Master Liu. Just as he was infuriated, he heard Liu Wei start singing. His singing was awful. Not only was he tone deaf, but he was also wailing like a ghost. Old Master Liu felt extremely ashamed. Chapter 167, School Entrance. Wenzheng could not help but twitch his lips. He looked at Old Master Liu. Don't tell me he's lost his mind? Old Master Liu's expression changed and he hurriedly rushed in. As soon as Liu Wei turned around while singing, he saw Old Master Liu and Wenzheng coming in. His singing had just reached a high-pitched stage, but at this moment, it stopped abruptly, as if a duck was being strangled. The expression on his face froze, and his mouth opened wide, looking especially ferocious. Old Master Liu felt his heart ache and quickly came over to help him sit down. Why did you suddenly go crazy? I heard that a girl came to look for you previously. Did she do something? Father will send someone to capture her now. Liu Wei blinked and finally came back to his senses. He hurriedly reached out to hold his father's hand and shouted, Wait, wait, wait. Father, what crazy illness are you talking about? I'm not crazy. I'm fine. I'm just happy. It sounded normal. Old Master Liu frowned. If you're happy, why are you shouting? Hee, Father, you don't know why I'm happy. Let me tell you, No, I can't say it yet. In short, I'll be able to help Father earn 5 shops soon. At that time, Father, you can't say that I'm a wastrel and unfilial son anymore. I'm also very considerate of the Liu family. Old Master Liu snorted. Forget it. I'll be grateful if you don't lose 5 shops. Sit properly. Your brother Qin is looking for you. Father, you really look down on me. Liu Wei pursed his lips. Then, he suddenly looked at Wenzheng and stood up. Brother Qin, why are you here? Yundong had just gone to school to look for Wenzheng when Wenzheng appeared at his house. Wasn't she missing out? Liu Wei hurriedly urged Wenzheng, Brother Qin, hurry back to school. Old Master Liu was so angry that he almost fell backward. He really should throw his son away. He slapped his son's back. What are you talking about? Your big brother Qin came to see you. Don't be ungrateful. No, Father, Liu Wei wanted to explain, but he didn't know how to start. On the other hand, Wenzheng still remembered the purpose of his trip and said, Liu Wei, the matter of your bet with the Tao family has blown up too much. It's better to resolve this matter as soon as possible. I have an idea on my side. I can turn this big matter into a small one. I just want you to suffer a little. Are you willing? I'm not. He was about to slap his enemy in the face. Why should he be wronged? Wenzheng was stunned and felt a headache coming on. Do you know how serious the consequences of this matter are? When the time limit for your bet is up and you can't take out the white sugar you mentioned, the Liu family might lose more than 5 shops. You might even lose the entire Liu family. I know, but Liu Wei's heart was itching. He even wanted to put the white sugar under Wenzheng's nose and tell him that he had it. But he could not. If he ruined Yundong's plans, she would definitely skin him alive. Liu Wei couldn't help but shudder. He couldn't care less and reached out to push Wenzheng out. Brother Qin, go back to school first. When you go back, you'll know everything. Really, I beg you to go back quickly. If there's no result when you go back, come and look for me in the afternoon. I'll do whatever you say. Wenzheng was stunned. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Liu Wei for a moment before finally nodding. Okay. He bade farewell to old Master Liu and turned around to go home. Liu Wei heaved a sigh of relief. Yundong would probably thank him. Yes. At this moment, Yundong had already brought Liu Yi to the school. As soon as they got off the carriage, they saw many people surrounding the school gate. Chapter 168. Violent Yundong asked Liu Yi to stand where he was, instructed the coachman to keep an eye on him, and squeezed into the crowd. The people outside were all people who lived nearby. All of them looked at the two parties who were confronting each other inside. One of them stood at the entrance of the school. There were 4 people. One was a young woman with a maidservant beside her. She was carrying a young girl in her arms. The last one was the gatekeeper that Yundong had seen before. Standing opposite them was a middle-aged man who looked a little old. He was wearing a neat long robe and a square scarf. He looked like a scholar. There were 3 youths and 2 children standing beside him. It was obvious that they were coming aggressively. Yundong frowned and asked the people around her what had happened. The onlookers at the side kindly explained to her, "These people are the teachers and students of our county's Dongyi Academy. I heard that yesterday, a few students of Dongyi Academy were discussing some knowledge loudly in the tea house. In the end, Master Qin was also in the tea house with his wife and daughter. When he heard the wrong knowledge they said, he pointed it out and corrected them. In the end, today, the teachers of their academy brought people up to argue that what Master Qin said was wrong." Yundong had asked around before and knew that Dongyi Academy was the largest academy in Fengkai County other than the county school. The dean of the academy was a high scholar, and 5 of the students had elementary scholar titles. Compared to it, Wenzheng school was much weaker. Not to mention that it had only been open for a year or 2, even the students he had taken in were all children, and there were only a dozen of them. Not to mention elementary scholar, there was not even a preparation scholar. Moreover, Wenzheng was really low-key. Only people like the Liu family, the Peng family and the county magistrate knew his identity. For example, more than half of the families of the students in his school had only sent their children over when they heard that there was a school here. The teacher was kind and knowledgeable and the tuition was affordable. In Dongyi Academy, only the dean who was the high scholar knew who he was. However, this high scholar was already on the way to the capital for the examination because the new emperor had ascended the throne. Today, the person who had brought a few students to look for Wenzheng was just an ordinary teacher. Madame Gu, who was at the door, was also annoyed by these people, but she still said patiently, "My husband is not at home. If you have something to ask him, come another day." The teacher standing in front sneered when he heard this. "Not at home? I'm afraid he knows that he said something wrong yesterday and doesn't dare to come out, right? To think that he's still a teacher who teaches and educates people. He doesn't have literature in his heart, but he has to pretend to be knowledgeable. A person like him doesn't deserve to be a scholar at all. Teaching and educating people is misleading them. I think if he doesn't become a teacher, there's no need to open a school." Madame Guest's expression changed, but the students behind the master also echoed. Their words were each sharper than the other, and the onlookers began to whisper. This was clearly ruining her husband's reputation. Madame Gu couldn't help but take a step forward. "My husband doesn't have literature in his heart? What a joke. Why don't you go back and ask the dean of your academy if my husband is knowledgeable? Who doesn't know that our dean is not at the academy but has left for the capital for the examination? Don't talk about other stuff. We don't talk to a woman like you. Call Master Qin out. Don't hide inside and not make a sound." As the teacher spoke, he approached. Madame Gu could not help but take a small step back. Chapter 169. You are blind. However, she had forgotten that there was a staircase behind her. She lost her balance and flipped backward. The maidservant behind her screamed, "Madam, be careful." She wanted to help her, but she was still carrying the young lady in her hand. Coincidentally, there was the gatekeeper blocking the way in front. It was too far away and she could not make it in time. Just as Madame Gu was about to fall to the ground, a figure suddenly rushed out from the side. He suddenly held Madame Gu's waist and pulled her back. Madame Gu gasped in shock and exhaled twice. She said in shock, "Thank you." If this guy hadn't supported her, she would have embarrassed herself in front of so many people today. As soon as she finished speaking, she realized that there was silence around her. No one made a sound. Stunned, Madame Gu looked up and saw everyone looking at her waist. She lowered her head slightly and saw the hand that was still on her waist. She looked up along the finger and saw a delicate face. Madame Gu frowned slightly. This face, before she could take a closer look, a few sneers suddenly came from Dongyi Academy. The teacher blew his beard and glared at him. In public, it's inappropriate for a married woman to hug a servant. It's insulting to the refined. It's simply insulting to the refined. The student beside him was also laughing. No wonder that Master Qin spouted nonsense. He can't even manage his family well. How can he have the mood to study? That's right. Look, they're still hugging each other and can't bear to part. Children, don't look. Be careful of getting needle marks. One of the students even deliberately covered the eyes of the two children beside him and said loudly. The onlookers also discussed softly. This Madame Gu looks like a well-educated person. I usually don't even dare to speak loudly when I see her. I feel that she's not the same as us. But now, TSK, Madame Gu heard these words and her face instantly turned red. Gu Yundong's face was also dark. She straightened Madame Gu's body slightly and said in a low voice, "Madam, stand properly." Thank you." Madame Gu lowered her head slightly and stood up. However, in the next moment, her body tilted again, and a painful expression appeared on her face. Gu Yundong subconsciously reached out to hold her waist again. "What's wrong?" She spoke softly, and Madame Gu heard it clearly. It was a girl. Madame Gu secretly heaved a sigh of relief, but the sharp pain in her foot made her frown. "I think my ankle was sprained." Gu Yundong immediately turned around and called out to the dumbfounded maidservant, "Aren't you coming over?" The maidservant suddenly came back to her senses, and her face turned pale. She hurriedly put down the little girl who was struggling to call her mother and came up to grab Madame Gu's hand. "Madam, how are you?" "Mother, how are you?" Madame Gu shook her head and smiled at Gu Yundong. "Thank you so much. Yo, you're still deep in love here. You've even developed feelings for each other after hugging for a long time? Mrs. Qin, I think your husband is useless. Look, he's still hiding inside and not coming out. Why don't you just marry this servant?" Therefore, the words of a scholar who had read books were even worse when he did not have any grace. Gu Yundong let go of Madame Gu's hand and looked at the people from Dongyi Academy. The teacher laughed disdainfully. "Why? You did such an ugly thing in front of everyone and you're not letting anyone talk about it? F***ck, a bunch of ducks. Are you blind?" Gu Yundong suddenly reached out and removed the hat on her head. "Open your eyes and take a good look. I'm a woman, a woman." Chapter 170, Argument. Her silky long hair fell to the side, and her crisp voice exploded. The scene was deathly silent. Everyone seemed to have their acupoints pressed as they stared at her without moving. After a while, the master of Dongyi Academy suddenly came back to his senses. He shook his head fiercely and pointed at Gu Yundong. You're a woman? Why? Not only are you blind, but your eyeballs are also gone, right? The student behind the master couldn't help but exclaim, "If she's a woman, why is she disguised as a man?" "Because I'm happy to." "It's none of your business." Gu Yundong glanced at him and snorted. The master was so angry that he almost fell backward. His entire face was red with anger. How unbecoming. It's simply unbecoming. Not only is she disguised as a man, but she also curses. It's simply insulting to the refined. Refined my ass. Gu Yundong took 2 steps forward and approached the teacher. She sneered. You're a teacher of Dongyi Academy. Instead of educating people, you brought students to find trouble with us. Why don't you say that it's insulting? Why don't you say that it's insulting to be polite when you say that you don't want to lower yourself to the level of a woman while saying evil words in front of other people's children? This madam said that her husband is not at home, but you didn't believe her. Why do you have to cause a commotion on the streets and block traffic to affect others? Why don't you say that it's insulting? Gu Yundong kept approaching. Her voice was crisp and sharp, making the teacher and the students unable to resist. They could only stare and retreat. You say that you're a scholar, and yet you caused Mrs. Qin to almost fall, but you didn't even apologize. Instead, you pointed at me and criticized me for helping her. Have you read all your books? A person like you who doesn't respect others and doesn't know etiquette isn't called a scholar. You should be called a refined scumbag. You, the master, could not even speak after being scolded. What did I say? Did I say something wrong? Even I know that when scholars visit, they should first send a visitation card and arrange a time and place before sitting down to talk about the past and the present. They should not bring a few students to the door of someone's house aggressively and talk nonsense to the old, weak, women, and children. What's the difference between you and a street shrew? This time, not only the teacher, but even the students' faces flashed with embarrassment and hatred. Gu Yundong raised her chin slightly and sneered. With your manners and upbringing, you've disgraced the Dongyi Academy and the scholars. You, a student flew into a rage out of humiliation. After holding it in for a long time, he suddenly said, nonsense. Indeed, only women and villains are difficult to take care of. The master nodded vigorously. You're right. The ancients were right. Only women and villains are difficult to take care of. Gu Yundong suddenly scolded, Hey, you unfilial sons. The few of them were stunned and did not understand. How are we unfilial? Your mothers aren't women? You actually said that she's difficult to raise. You don't want to support her, right? If this isn't unfilial, what is? The few of them blushed. The teacher's heart ached. He pointed at Gu Yundong. You're being unreasonable. I'll speak the truth. If you can't win, shut your mouth. What a disgrace. Gu Yundong slapped his hand away. The master's face gradually contorted. Suddenly, he felt his vision turn black and his entire body fell backward. Master, master. The 3 students were shocked. They hurriedly supported him and glared at Gu Yundong before running away. Chapter 171, Becoming Famous in One Battle. Gu Yundong scoffed. If you have the ability, come and find trouble with me. If you have the ability, don't pretend to be unconscious, coward. She turned around and swept her gaze across the crowd. Just now, these people were still making sarcastic remarks and pointing fingers at Madame Gu, but now, they looked at her and did not dare to say a word. Who would dare to come out? Didn't they see that she was so sharp-tongued that even a scholar fainted from her scolding? Is there anything else? Gu Yundong asked. Everyone immediately shook their heads like rattle drums and waved their hands to deny it. No, no, no. Miss, what you said just now makes sense. It's those people. They don't have any rules. I remember that there's still porridge cooking at home. I have to leave quickly. I have to go back and wash my clothes too. It's rare for the sun to come out. As the voices fell, the crowded street instantly dispersed. Everyone fled quickly, as if someone was chasing them from behind. As soon as they left, they revealed Liu Yi and the coachman standing not far away. Gu Yundong walked over. Liu Yi pursed his lips and looked serious, but his cheeks were red, as if he was a little agitated. Although he was standing outside the crowd and could not see what was happening inside, he could hear voices. Coupled with what the coachman had told him, Liu Yi roughly understood. He still had his hands behind his back as he sized up Yundong for a long time. Yes, she was indeed a woman, and she was quite good-looking. Liu Yi expressed his satisfaction. You helped my master's wife. You're not bad. You can be my brother's friend. After saying that, he strode towards the entrance of the academy. He first greeted Madame Gu, then brought Madame Guest's daughter, Qin Anning, inside. Madame Gu stood there and waited for her. She only came over when she saw her carrying a small basket from the carriage. Yundong held Madame Guest's other side with her free hand and entered the school with the maidservant. Yes, she came in just like that. Madame Gu was very grateful to her. After she sat down in the room, she thanked her again. Thank you so much for today. If it weren't for you, I might have been injured and those people wouldn't have left so easily. Yundong put the basket aside and said, I thought my words were too sharp and rude just now, and Madame won't like me. Madame Gu was stunned for a moment before she laughed. What are you talking about? You were trying to help me. Am I such an ungrateful person? Besides, those people from Dongyi Academy are indeed detestable. I also want to scold them fiercely. But am not as eloquent as you. Yundong smiled. Qin Wenzheng's wife was easy to talk to. Madame Gu had sprained her ankle. Fortunately, it was not very serious. There were not many servants in the Qin family. Other than the gatekeeper, there was also the butler, Madame Guest's maidservant, Qin Wenzheng's servant, and an old woman at the stove. The servant followed Qin Wenzheng to the Liu residence. The butler was also instructed to go out to do something. The old woman went to the market to buy groceries, which resulted in only Madame Gu and few people in the house. Now that the old woman was back, she knew how to take care of injuries. She took the medicinal wine and rubbed the ankle hard. Madame Gu changed her clothes and came out of the inner room to talk to Yundong. I haven't asked for your name. Why did you dress up as a servant and follow the young master of the Liu family here? What's the matter? Yundong nodded. My name is Yundong. I'm indeed here for something today. Miss Gu, please speak. I want to. She had just started when hurried footsteps came from outside. Madam, how are you? Chapter 172. My brother Yunshu is deeply virtuous. Before Yundong could regain his senses, she saw a figure rush in like a gust of wind. He ran to Madame Guest's side and squatted down to look at her feet. Madame Gu pushed him anxiously. Don't. There's someone here. I'm fine. I've already applied the medicine. Qin Wenzheng had indeed smelled the medicinal wine. Seeing that Madame Gu was not injured, he heaved a sigh of relief. As soon as he returned, he heard from the gatekeeper that the students of the headmaster of Dongyi Academy had come to cause trouble. He was extremely anxious and immediately ran in. When he heard Madame Guest's words, he stood up and turned to look at Yundong. I heard from Uncle Quan that you saved my wife. Thank you, Mississippi. You're welcome. Yundong smiled. She had finally met the legendary Qin Wenzheng. He was a little more refined than she had imagined. Judging from how nervous he was about his wife just now, he should be someone who valued relationships. Qin Wenzheng thought quickly. Not only did Uncle Quan, the gatekeeper, say that Dongyi Academy had come to cause trouble, but he also said that Madame had sprained her ankle. He also said that the girl who helped them was dressed as a servant of the Liu family to send Liu Yi to school. Coupled with what happened in the Liu family, he quickly thought of Yundong's identity. Therefore, after Qin Wenzheng sat down, he asked, Miss Gu, are you from Yongfu village and know the eldest young master of the Liu family? Yes. Yundong nodded. Qin Wenzheng tapped his fingers on the table. Then, is there something you need from me today? After a pause, he added, you saved my wife. As long as I can help, I won't refuse. She had deliberately disguised herself as a servant to come to the door and knew the eldest young master of the Liu family. She must have known his identity. Gu Yundong's expression turned serious. Since Master Qin has said so, I won't stand on ceremony. I have a 5-year-old brother who's really adorable, understanding, and righteous. He's sensible, lively, cheerful, and smart. Miss, I know that your brother is a very, very good child. You can just get to the point. Wenzheng was slightly sweating. He had never seen anyone praise their child so much. Shouldn't she be a little humble? Oh. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. It's like this. I hope Master Qin can take my brother Yunshu as a student and teach him how to read and write. That's it? Gu Yundong nodded seriously. I heard from young Master Liu that Teacher Qin is knowledgeable. I saw that the Liu family sent their children here to school. I think Teacher Qin must be good. Wenzheng took a sip of tea. Well, at least Liu Wei had some knowledge. I've always taken in students based on their aptitude and character. If they catch my eye, no matter if they're rich or poor, they'll still be my students. I haven't seen your brother yet. Miss, why don't you bring him over to take a look? Gu Yundong smiled. No exceptions? Didn't the Liu family send Liu Yi here because of favors? Although she trusted her brother's qualifications and character. Madame Gu reached out and nudged Wenzheng. The corners of Wenzheng's mouth twitched, and he coughed lightly. That's true. Miss helped my family a lot today, so I can naturally relax my requirements. As for how relaxed. Sigh, who asked him to love his wife? That was a 5-year-old child. Whether he was stupid or had a bad character, he could more or less turn things around if he put in more effort. Gu Yundong was relieved to hear that. Apart from that, I have something else to discuss with Master Qin. Chapter 173. As you see, this is white sugar. Wenzheng frowned slightly. Hey. Don't push your luck. He had a temper too. Gu Yundong looked to the side and said, I want to talk to Mr. Qin alone about this. Wenzheng's frown deepened. However, he remembered that he also wanted to ask this girl if the Liu family's bet had anything to do with her, so he agreed. He asked the maidservant to bring his daughter out, and also asked the manservant who was originally standing at the door to leave. However, he did not let Madame Gu leave. I don't have anything to hide from Madame. If you have something to say, just say it. Coincidentally, I have something to ask you. Gu Yundong had no objections. Instead, she felt that such a respectful and trusting couple was more reassuring. Still, Master Qin, do you have something to ask me? This was a little strange. Then you can ask first. It was also a good opportunity to get to know Wenzheng better. After all, she still needed to be cautious about what she was going to say next. Wenzheng did not decline. He was originally quite anxious. Miss Gu is from Yongfu village and is friends with the eldest young master of the Liu family. You should know about the bet between him and the Tao family, right? I want to know if this matter is related to Miss. So it was this. She nodded. It does concern me. Wenzheng's expression suddenly became serious. In that case, Miss is really the woman who claimed to make white sugar and made young Master Liu believe her without a doubt? There shouldn't be anyone else. Wenzheng could not help but raise his voice slightly. Miss, do you know that this matter has already reached the prefectural city? If we don't control it, the consequences will be unimaginable. Madame Gu tugged at his sleeve worriedly. Wenzheng exhaled slightly and continued, I went to the Liu family today and met the eldest young master of the Liu family. I originally wanted to persuade him to reduce the matter, but he refused to listen to my advice. He seemed to trust Miss Gu very much, but he refused to tell me the reason when I asked him. Miss Gu, can you tell me the reason? The reason is very simple. Young Master Liu believes that I can make white sugar. Master Qin, do you believe it? Wenzheng suddenly wanted to laugh. Miss Gu, this is the first time we've met. Even now, I still don't know your name, family background, and character. How can I believe that you have such ability? She made a lot of sense. Yundong nodded and bent down to pick up the basket that had been placed on the table. Then, she pulled off the cloth covering it and revealed a ceramic jar. Then will you believe that I have the ability to do so after seeing this? Wenzheng was stunned. He looked at the jar and then exchanged glances with Madame Gu. Master, can you open it and take a look? Yundong made an inviting gesture. Wenzheng paused for a moment. With a tense expression, he opened the lid and peeked out. The things inside were fine and white, as if they were salt, but also not. You can try it. This time, Yundong was more careful and prepared a small spoon. After all, the teacher was a scholar. He could not just swoop with his hand like Liu Yi. Wenzheng suspiciously picked up a small spoon and scooped a little. After hesitating for a moment, seeing that Madame Gu was about to eat it herself, he brought it to his mouth and took a shallow sip. The next moment, his pupils constricted and he suddenly stood up from his chair. Sweet, Yundong also stood up. As you can see, this is white sugar. Do you believe that I have the ability now? Wenzheng's entire body shook, and his eyes suddenly became bright. Chapter 174, Second Suggestion. Yundong's hair stood on end from his gaze. She had the illusion that she was shining. She calmed herself down and said, Master? Wenzheng sat down again and stuffed the spoon in his hand into his mouth. He ate the spoonful of sugar and closed his eyes. As if he was savoring the aftertaste, he carefully pursed his lips. Yundong, can you not make it sound like you're doing drugs? When Wenzheng opened his eyes again, he was much calmer, but his eyes were still burning with ecstasy. He took a deep breath. Lady Gu, did you really make this? Yes. Good. You've made a huge contribution to our country. Contribution to the country? No. Yundong smiled. Master, don't flatter me. I'm just an ordinary farm girl. I'm selling this sugar for money. I can't bear such a heavy burden. Mr. Qin's mouth twitched. Why wasn't she excited at all? But Miss Gu, you know that if you offer the formula to the imperial court, what you get will be far more important than silver. Yundong nodded. Perhaps you're right. I can get fame, praise, a reward, and even be recorded in history books. Oh, it would probably be written that she was from the Gu family of Fengkai County and her name would not even be mentioned. Wenzheng nodded. Wasn't that very clear? Isn't that good? At least Wenzheng wanted such a reputation. Yundong said, of course it's good, but what about after the flowers and applause? I'm still Yundong from Yongfu village. My formula is given to the imperial court, so I can't use it. I even have to buy it if I need it. In the future, she would also be in the jam and candy business. These needed a large amount of white sugar, but the price of white sugar in the grocery store was simply ruthless. So what if the emperor got to know her because of this? He would forget about her in less than a month. Without her source of income, her life was probably worse than before. Just like the current Olympic champions. They were so exciting and loved when they brought glory to their country. However, after they retired, how many of these athletes became poor? After the applause, only she could plan for herself. Yundong admitted that she was a selfish person and not that noble. Wenzheng frowned. That was not wrong. However, he said, then why did you come to see me today? After the sugar is released, I'm afraid many people will covet it. Therefore, I want to find a reliable and capable person to cooperate with. Master Qin is not an ordinary teacher. Let's cooperate and split the profits. How about that? Wenzheng was stunned. This girl actually had such an idea. But, he shook his head slightly and frowned. Although I'm not a rich person, I'm not short of money. Besides, this white sugar is a hot potato to me. He wanted this share, but if the emperor found out, he would definitely not let him off. This was white sugar. It was unique. It was not like he was cooperating with others to open a restaurant or shop. It was easy to get a share of the profits from those, but it was not easy to get them from white sugar. Yundong was not surprised by his rejection. She smiled and said, Master Qin, why don't you listen to my second suggestion? There's more. Wenzheng could not help but sit up straight. Speak. Chapter 175. Wenzheng is unromantic. Yundong pointed at the white sugar. The formula for the white sugar can be presented to the imperial court. Wenzheng's eyes lit up, but she continued, but there are conditions. What conditions? The imperial court will allow me to privately make and sell it. Damn it, she was clearly the one who made it. She still had to obtain the imperial court's permission to make deals. It was so annoying. But Yundong knew that it was impossible for her to keep the technique of extracting white sugar in her hands. This thing was not like recipe or embroidery skills. This person did not have it, but that person did. They could hide it as an inheritance and let the future generations inherit the skills. White sugar was related to the livelihood of the people. In the future, it would have to enter thousands of families. It was like salt. She was just a small farmer girl. How could she dare to monopolize it? She would be killed in minutes. However, she could let the imperial court monopolize it. Seeing that Wenzheng was silent, Yundong continued, Master Qin, let's face the reality. If you want me to offer the formula, this is the only condition. Of course, the imperial court can also disagree. You can also coerce and tempt me, but nobody wants to see the bad consequences. Although I want to do business in private, don't worry. My quantity won't be huge. Besides, what I want to do the most isn't the white sugar business. At this point, she lowered her voice slightly. However, the imperial court can refine it in large quantities. Master Qin, the treasury is empty now, right? Don't look at me like that. To say something disrespectful, we all know what kind of person the late emperor was. Moreover, as soon as the current emperor ascended the throne, he immediately sent a large sum of disaster relief silver to Yongning prefecture. Just think about how much silver there is in the treasury. Wenzheng's expression turned grave. Yundong lowered her voice even more. But this white sugar can help the emperor earn a lot of money. White sugar looks fair, but there's not much of it. I heard that most of the nobles in the capital like to compare. If they know that there's such a thing, wouldn't they think of ways to buy it? But white sugar is in the hands of the court. Isn't the price just how much the emperor wants? Besides, white sugar can also be exported to our neighboring countries. Not only can it showcase our country's advanced technology, but it can also earn their money, right? Wenzheng followed her train of thought. The more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. Although sugar would be commonly distributed to the families of ordinary people in the future, the emperor could still take advantage of these few years to earn a sum of money to fill the national treasury, right? Yundong continued, as for me, even if I make a private transaction, I will only set the price to be about the same as the imperial courts. I don't need much, so most people still have to ask the emperor for it, right? As long as Master Qin is my backer and doesn't let others find trouble with me, I will tell you the formula. Wenzheng was silent. After thinking for a long time, he finally nodded seriously. All right, then can I go to Yongfu village now to see how you refine this white sugar? Master Qin, you should ask the higher-ups first and confirm it. Wenzheng looked at her deeply. You don't look like a farmer girl at all. I also think I'm very smart. Madame Gu, who was sitting quietly at the side, could not help but laugh out loud. Wenzheng's tense face could not help but twitch. He shook his head and laughed. Then Miss Gu, wait a moment. I'll go write a letter. As he spoke, he took the white candy and left. Madame Gu had been watching. When she heard that Wenzheng was leaving, she wondered if she could have a bite of such sweet and white sugar. She did not expect her husband, who was insensitive, to take it away. Chapter 176. Family goes to Yongfu village. Qin Wenjing quickly finished writing the letter and got someone to send the jar of white sugar to the capital. After that, he returned and chatted with Gu Yundong for a long time. Madame Gu instructed the servants to prepare lunch and let Gu Yundong eat at the Qin residence before leaving. As soon as she left, Madame Gu asked Qin Wenjing worriedly, "Will this matter work?" Qin Wenjing looked at the distant carriage and reached out to hold Madame Gu's hand. He said in a low voice, "The emperor is a monarch who cherishes talent." Madame Gu understood that it was most likely possible. If that's the case, Miss Gu can privately manufacture and sell white sugar. That will attract a lot of attention. It won't be difficult for the people in the capital to find out. Speaking of which, even if Lady Gu gave the entire formula to the imperial court and did not care about it, those who wanted to find out would still be able to find out that she was the inventor. Don't worry. I've been in Fengkai County for a few years. Now that the county magistrate is under the Dai Prefecture magistrate, those people will have to ask for my permission if they want to interfere. Qin Wenjing smiled. I'm afraid I'll be busy from now on. My wife, please bear with me. You're going to be busy. Didn't you just promise Miss Gu to accept her brother as a student? There's no hurry. At the very least, we have to wait for news from the capital before we have the mood. Qin Wenzheng's judgment was correct. 5 days later, a letter came from the capital and was sent to the Qin residence overnight. It was a thick letter, which showed how important it was and how much the emperor valued it. Qin Wenjing opened the letter and smiled. The next morning, he brought Madame Gu and his daughter, Qin Anning, to Yongfu village. When the carriage entered Yongfu village, the villagers were no longer as curious as Gu Yundong's first visit. After all, ever since the Gu family bought a carriage and the Liu family's young master often came over, the carriage was no longer rare. However, there were still children following behind the carriage. This was the first time Qin Anning had come to such a place. Seeing that the children were different from the children from her school, she was slightly excited and wanted to get out of the carriage, but she was stopped by Madame Gu. This young lady was not a quiet person. If she really wanted to play with children of the same age, she would definitely go crazy. Her mother would not be able to pull her back. Qin Wenjing lifted the curtain and asked the child outside, "May I ask how to get to Gu Yundong's house?" At first, he was afraid that these children did not know. After all, he did not know Gu Yundong's father's name. Unexpectedly, the children nodded in unison. The Gu family? Other families might be unknown, but who did not know the Gu family? The most imposing green brick tiled house was her house. It was very impressive. One of the children immediately shouted in a certain direction, "Yunshu, Yunshu, someone is looking for your family. Is it a relative of yours?" The child was a little envious. Yunshu's family was rich, and so were her relatives. Looking at the big carriage, they were even richer than her family. Qin Wenjing followed the child's gaze and saw a child standing far away, wiping a little girl's hands with a handkerchief. Perhaps because he did not hear the child's cry, Gu Yunshu did not turn around. The child wanted to call out again, but Qin Wenjing waved his hand, got off the carriage, and walked over. Yunshu? Wasn't this the name of the younger brother that Gu Yundong had mentioned before? Qin Wenjing slowly walked behind him and heard the young and patient little voice. Chapter 177. Heart of Love for Talents. Let's see if you still dare to run so fast. Fortunately, your clothes are thick and you didn't fall too hard. If you fall and hurt yourself, won't you cry? Don't run next time, understand? If you want to find me, just call me loudly. Will I not wait for you? Gu Yunshu carefully wiped her palm with a handkerchief. She had probably hit a small stone and it was a little red. Fortunately, her skin was not broken. The little girl's eyes were red, but she shook her head hard. I'm not running anymore. Give me 2 puffs. As she spoke, she stretched out her small hand. Gu Yunshu seriously blew on it twice. Then, the little girl smiled in satisfaction. All right, it doesn't hurt anymore. Let's go home and change your clothes. Yunshu held her small hand. Unexpectedly, just as he turned around, he saw Wenzheng standing behind him. Yunshu blinked. What can I do for you? Wenzheng quietly listened to the siblings' conversation, and his impression of this child improved a lot. Such a young child usually ran out to play with his friends. It was really rare for him to take care of his younger sister so carefully without any impatience. Moreover, this child was good-looking and polite. He heard from Yundong that he had studied and knew how to read. It seemed that he had not studied for nothing. I'm looking for your eldest sister, Yundong. I'm from the county. My surname is Qin. Wenzheng thought that since Yundong was looking for a teacher for her younger brother, she had at least told him about the teacher. If he introduced himself like this, Yunshu should know who he was. Unexpectedly, he only nodded and asked, Do you know my eldest sister? Why are you looking for her? Wenzheng was speechless. The girl had actually never mentioned him to her brother. Wenzheng coughed lightly and calmed himself down before saying, A few days ago, Miss Gu went to the county city and helped my wife. Today, I specially brought my wife and daughter to visit. Yunshu was happy to hear that. My elder sister is very good. She's kind, beautiful, and capable. When she sees that your wife is in trouble, she will definitely help her. Yunka nodded. She's also smart. Wenzheng looked up at the sky and recalled Yundong praising her younger brother with a bunch of idioms that day. It seemed that this was inherited from the family. Siblings did not even have to be humble when praising each other. Yunshu's attitude towards Wenzheng immediately improved. Then I'll bring you there. Follow me. With that, he held Yunk's hand and walked forward. They were only at the village entrance now. Their house was at the foot of the mountain, and it was still a little far away. Wenzheng wanted the two of them to get into the carriage. Unexpectedly, Yunshu shook his head firmly. Well, just walk. Eldest sister had said that they could not get into a stranger's carriage. What if they were kidnapped? He and his sister were both very beautiful, cute, and eye-catching. When Wenzheng heard this, he did not get into the carriage. He let the servant drive behind him while he accompanied the two little fellows. As they walked, they chatted. The more they talked, the more Wenzheng liked the siblings. He realized that Yunshu was very smart and talented in studying. In addition, he had a good character. Wenzheng developed a love for talent and wanted to nurture him well. They soon arrived at the foot of the mountain. Although the Gu family had not moved to their new home, Yundong was usually here during the day. Hence, Yunshu brought them to the entrance of the new house and shouted, eldest sister, a Mr. and Mrs. Qin from the county city are here to look for you. Wenzheng, on the other hand, stood where he was, staring at the green brick-tiled house in front of him with slightly widened eyes. Chapter 178. This is a scam. The Gu house was actually so big and imposing? Wenzheng could not link the green brick house in front of him to the Gu family. Didn't they say that Yundong's family had fled from elsewhere? Didn't they say that her father had still gone missing? Moreover, when Yundong had chatted with him previously, she had clearly acted as if she was very short of money, and needed white sugar business. This was a scam, a scam. Her house was even better than his. Looking at the stone road at the door, the neat flower beds around, and the brand new bricks, it was even more luxurious than the landlord's house. When Yundong came out, she saw Madame Gu carrying her daughter down from the carriage. She quickly stepped forward with a smile. Mrs. Qin, you're here. Come in and sit. Madame Gu greeted her and led her daughter into the house. However, after taking a few steps, she realized that Wenzheng was still standing at the same spot. She could not help but turn around to look. At this moment, Wenzheng looked at Yundong angrily and sneered. Miss Gu's house is really unexpected. When Madame Gu heard this, she looked over and her eyes lit up. Of course, she had seen green brick houses before. She had even seen more exquisite carvings. However, the house in front of her gave off a very different feeling. It was a little different, but it gave people a warm and comfortable feeling. Yundong instantly understood that Wenzheng was angry out of humiliation. Seeing how sarcastic he was, she immediately sighed. That's not right. This house of mine has cost me all my savings. Now that I'm penniless, I can't even gather enough money to send my brother to school, so I have to work hard to earn money. Yunshu hurriedly said, I'm not going to school. You don't have to work too hard. You'll be tired. No. Wenzheng was the first to object. She then turned to look at Yundong, who shrugged. Let's talk inside. The group of people entered the house and Yundong poured them some sugar water. It was made with white sugar. Compared to brown sugar, it was as if nothing was added. The water was still transparent and clear. It looked very refreshing, but it tasted sweet in his mouth. Madame Gu let out a comfortable breath and looked at her daughter. She saw that she had already gulped it all down and handed the empty cup to Wenzheng for him to pour another cup. Previously, Wenzheng had sent all the white sugar to the capital. He did not leave any for himself, so seriously speaking, this was the first time he had drunk such sugar water. He could not help but nod to himself. It was indeed not bad. After drinking the sugar water, Wenzheng saw the siblings standing quietly beside Yundong, as if they wanted to embolden her. He could not help but smile. Yunshu, we have something to say to your elder sister. Can you take our Ninger out for a walk? Anning listened eagerly and excitedly. Her mother had said that she had to be reserved, quiet, and polite when she was a guest at someone else's house, so she had been restraining herself from being too perky, even though she had wanted to talk to Yunshu and Yinka for a long time. Yunshu looked up at his eldest sister, who nodded. He came over and said to Anning, let's go. You have to follow us closely. Otherwise, you'll be taken away by the tiger on the mountain. Anning immediately became agitated. Are there tigers on the mountain? Have you seen them before? Can you take me there? My family had 2 roe deers last time, but they were already dead. Cough. Madame Gu could not help but hold her forehead. Chapter 179. Let me do it. After the 3 children left, Wenzheng said, there's a reply from the capital. The emperor has agreed to your conditions. Moreover, the emperor has also instructed that Lady Gu can create and sell as much as she wants. No one will come looking for trouble with you. Of course, the people here referred to those high-ranking officials and nobles who wanted a share on the surface, including people like the Tao family in the county. However, Yundong still had to pay attention to those despicable people. Wenzheng would try his best to help. This couldn't be helped. Since he wanted to do business, he couldn't avoid these troublesome things. Not to mention Yundong, even if it was someone like the Liu family, there would also be someone secretly causing trouble. They would even plant spies to disrupt the family's business. Yundong knew that he was bringing her good news. She immediately nodded. Then I'm relieved. Since it's confirmed, do you want to see the process of making sugar? Of course. Wenzheng was a little excited. He had been looking forward to it for a long time. Yundong brought them to the backyard. The place where sugar was made was in the backyard. Shao Qingyuan was tidying up the sugarcane. When he saw them coming, he washed his hands and walked over. Wenzheng sized him up. Who was this person? What was his relationship with Yundong? He looked tall and mighty, and his eyes were very cold. Just looking at him made people perk up for no reason. Shao Qingyuan had never seen Wenzheng before. When he accompanied Liu Yi to school, he only followed the butler to help bring the roe deers to the kitchen and then went out. However, he knew about Wenzheng. When Yundong returned that day, she did not hide the conversation between him and Wenzheng. Yundong introduced, this is Shao Qingyuan. He's my sugar business partner. Partner? Yundong nodded. That's right. Didn't I tell you? In order to build this house, I spent all my money. Look, I can only find someone to partner with. I'm really poor. Wenzheng, I don't believe you. He stopped dwelling on this matter. After nodding at Shao Qingyuan, he looked at the things in the courtyard. Because it had not been refined in large quantities, there were only 2 sets of tools, and they were a little simple. Wenzheng went forward and touched it. Indeed, he felt a little white sugar and brown sugar. His hand was sticky, but it made him very excited. Quickly refine it for me to see. Wenzheng looked a little impatient. Yundong went to take the apron, but just as she was about to put it on, she was stopped by Shao Qingyuan. He took the apron from Yundong's hands. I'll do it. I'm very familiar with it anyway. Watch from the side and explain it to Master Qin. Yundong thought about it and nodded. All right. Wenzheng raised his eyebrows slightly and did not say anything. Shao Qingyuan quickly took the cane juice that he had squeezed previously and placed it in the vat to boil. When it turned into yellowish black syrup, he poured it into the bucket and condensed it into black sugar. Then, he placed a tile funnel on a vat and plugged the funnel with straw. He poured the black sugar into the funnel and waited for the black sugar to form a block before removing the straw. Then, he poured the black sugar in the funnel with yellow mud water. The black slag flowed from the funnel into the vat below. The black sugar in the funnel turned into white frost. The top layer was about 5 inches and was very white. Wenzheng did not speak from the beginning to the end. He watched everything as Shao Qingyuan refined the white sugar bit by bit, as if she was casting a spell. The originally black and red sugar actually became so fair after this process. His expression became more and more excited. Chapter 180, Yunshu's teacher Shao Qingyuan only stopped after doing all this. Beside him, Wenzheng's breathing could not help but slow down. Good. That's great. He immediately wanted to try it himself. Seeing that it was getting late, Yundong quickly stopped him. Master Qin, have lunch first before you try. Otherwise, everyone will go hungry if you keep working. Wenzheng suddenly came back to his senses and left the backyard reluctantly. Lunch was still at the Zheng family's house. Although the furniture in the new house had been moved in, the house still needed to be exposed to the sun for a few days before it could be lived in. While eating, Wenzheng suddenly remembered that he had to take in a disciple. He took the opportunity to ask Yunshu if he wanted to go to school. Unexpectedly, the little guy shook his head. My family is poor. If you don't charge tuition fees, independent Illinois go. After spending an entire morning with Qin Anning, he finally knew Wenzheng's identity. Wenzheng almost choked on his own saliva. You're quite reluctant. Unexpectedly, Yunka nodded as well. Our family is poor. Too poor. The others present lowered their heads silently. Perhaps everyone had a different understanding of poverty? Qin Anning tilted her head and glanced at the candy in her hand. Could a child from a poor family casually take out such a good-looking orange-flavored candy to her friend? If she didn't have it, wouldn't her family be even poorer? Wenzheng could only look at Yundong. The latter felt that Yunshu still had to respect the teacher. Besides, Wenzheng had helped her a lot. It was not good to disrespect him too much. Otherwise, what if he flew into a rage out of humiliation? Hence, Yundong wiped her mouth and said solemnly, Yunshu, meet your teacher. Yunshu, who had been struggling just now, put down his chopsticks without another word. He walked to Wenzheng and knelt down with a thud. Then, he kowtowed 3 times. Greetings, sir. Wenzheng was speechless. This child's movements were so fast that he did not even have time to react. The others present stopped what they were doing and looked over in a daze. The Zheng family widened their eyes. This was a teacher of the school? The teacher of the school had personally come to the Gu family to take Gu Yunshu in as a student. How smart was he? Zheng Jia and Zheng Yu looked at Gu Yunshu enviously. It was great that Yunshu could go to school. They had actually learned some words from Gu Yunshu over the past few days. They were already very satisfied. Wenzheng laughed and reached out to help Gu Yunshu up. He patted his shoulder. Good, good. You're a smart child. How about this? I still have something to do these few days. You can report to school in 3 days. Yes. Yunshu nodded vigorously and turned to look at her elder sister. His little face was red. Gu Yundong knew that even though he had always said that his family was poor and he did not need to go to school, he still yearned for it. From now on, study well with Master Qin. Master Qin is knowledgeable. You won't lose out if you follow him. Wenzheng glanced at her. Why did these words sound so awkward? Was it because he was knowledgeable that he would not suffer a loss, or was it because he had a strong backing? Gu Yundong pretended not to notice his gaze. She pulled Gu Yunshu back and asked everyone to continue eating. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, she saw Madame Yang's eyes wide open in shock as tears slowly fell. Gu Yundong was shocked and hurried to her side. Mother, what's wrong? Chapter 181, Madame Yang cries for some reason. Madame Yang could not help but cry when she saw Gu Yunshu had a teacher. She looked at Gu Yundong blankly. After thinking for a while, she said, "Your father will be happy." Gu Yundong was stunned. She slowly sat down beside Madame Yang and wiped her tears with a handkerchief. She said softly, "Yes, if father sees that Yunshu can study and has such a powerful teacher, he will definitely be very happy." Madame Yang nodded heavily. "Let's find your father." Okay. Gu Yundong did not forget to look for Gu Dajiang, but she had to have money first. She had to settle down at home so that she could have no worries. In ancient times, where there were no communication tools, it took a lot of manpower and time to find someone. Seeing this, Wenzheng couldn't help but ask, "Where did you and your father get separated? If you need help, just tell me." Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. Yes, Mr. Qin had a lot of connections. She told him the location of Gu Dajiang's disappearance. Finally, she told him, "We agreed with father that if anyone got separated, we would meet in Qingyuan Prefecture." However, when we arrived at Qingyuan Prefecture, the city was in chaos. We had no choice but to come to Xuanhe Prefecture. "Master Qin, can you help us ask around in Qingyuan Prefecture?" Wenzheng thought for a moment before saying, "After the chaos in Qingyuan Prefecture, the officials have all changed. The entire prefectural city is undergoing a major renovation. I'm afraid it won't be easy to find your father. However, it'll help. Miss Gu, don't worry. Your father will definitely be safe." Gu Yundong thanked her with a smile. Madame Yang finally calmed down. Then, she ate happily, as if her previous crying did not exist. Gu Yundong shook her head and laughed. After dinner, Wenzheng couldn't wait to try refining the white sugar. It was just a little clumsy. As expected, it was unsuitable for people who studied. His handicraft ability was not good. However, he was very serious and recorded the process one by one. After 2 tries, he finally wiped the sweat off his forehead and brought Madame Gu and Qin Anning back to the county. After he left, Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan began to discuss mass-producing white sugar. It was impossible to rely on just the 2 of them. They had to hire people and find another venue. Gu Yundong could not bear to use her newly built house as a workshop. She also wanted to buy sugarcane and make a few more sets of tools. Shao Qingyuan was silent for a moment before suddenly saying, "Let's buy some people." Gu Yundong was stunned. Buy someone? Well, you don't have to buy too many. 2 or 3 will do. White sugar is extracted from black sugar. It's not a secret to make black sugar. A lot of people know how to make it. We just have to do the last step. Yundong hesitated for a moment and nodded. All right, then we'll buy some workers. We'll go tomorrow. The next morning, Yundong went to the county city. Shao Qingyuan followed him. Unexpectedly, as soon as the two of them arrived at the city gate, they saw Liu Yi's servant. Luan was driving the carriage out of the city. When he saw Shao Qingyuan, he immediately became happy. I was just about to go to Yongfu village to look for you and Miss Gu. Hearing her name, Yundong poked her head out of the carriage. Luan was even happier. So Miss Gu is here too. Great, I don't have to make another trip. Why are you looking for us? Miss Gu, how could you forget? Today is the agreed deadline between our young master and the Tao family's young master. It's in the afternoon. The young master specially asked me to invite the two of you to watch the show early in the morning. Chapter 182, Buying Workers. Yundong calculated the time. It was really today. In the afternoon? Where? Luan replied, yes, early in the morning, at Yunshu restaurant in the city. The Liu family was mainly in the business of restaurants. Yunshu restaurant was the largest restaurant in Fengkai County. Of course, the Liu family also had various shops under their name. They sold snacks, pastries, and even groceries. All right, I understand. We still have something to do now. Well, go over at noon. Tell your young master to keep a seat for us. Luan hurriedly asked, Miss Gu, what's the matter? Do you need my help? Yundong thought about it. Luan was more familiar with the county. She could save some effort by asking him. She asked, do you know which broker's shop in the county has a fair price? Is the broker's reputation good? Luan was stunned. Miss, you want to buy servants? That's right. Miss, you've asked the right person. The Liu family has interacted with a few brokers in the city. The most fair one is the official broker Hulu Alley in the city. There's a Granny Chao among them, and the people she trains are not bad. She has a conscience. She tells the identity and background of the servants clearly. She won't hide it from you. As for the price, it's a little more expensive than those private brokers, but it's worth it. Yundong knew what to do. All right, thank you. I'll go to the brokerage first and come to the restaurant later. Then I'll go and reply to young master. Miss, take your time. If you need anything, feel free to come to the restaurant and look for my young master. Luan drove the carriage away. Yundong and Shao Qingyuan discussed for a while and went straight to Hulu Alley. If there were no suitable ones over there, it would not be too late to take a look at the others. Hulu Alley was very lively. Although it was called an alley, the road was very wide. Their carriage could directly rush to the entrance of the brokerage. When Yundong came down, she immediately said that she was looking for Granny Chao. The people inside knew that this was most likely introduced by an acquaintance and they immediately went to look for her. Granny Chao was in her 40s. When she came out, she did not waste any time. She brought Yundong to the backyard. Then, she called everyone out and let Yundong and Shao Qingyuan take a look first. Yundong's main purpose in buying people was to help refine the white sugar. Furthermore, she would sign a death contract. After looking around, her gaze finally landed on a family with the surname Tong. According to Granny Chao, this family of 6 used to be servants of a large family in the county city. That family had moved away some time ago and could not bring many servants with them, so they sold a portion of them. The Tong family was among them. It was said that in the previous master's house, the Tong family was also diligent in their work. However, they did not know how to suck up to their master and could not get close to the master's house, so in the end, they were not taken away. The Tong family had an old man and a mother. They were both 46 years old this year. The couple had 2 sons. The eldest son was 30 years old and had married a woman. He had a 14-year-old daughter. What surprised Yundong was that this daughter was very strong, even though she ate a lot. The younger son was 25 years old. It was said that he had a wife before, but that wife found him boring. In the end, she climbed into the bed of the young master of the family and became his concubine. Upon hearing this, Yundong roughly knew why this family had been sold by the previous owner. This concubine must have put in a lot of effort. Yundong asked them a few questions. For the time being, she did not feel that there was anything bad about them, so she bought them. Because they were all strong laborers and were healthy, the 6 of them had cost 70 taels of silver on Yundong, and that was because Granny Chow had given a discount. Chapter 183, Young Master Liu, Don't Give Up. Yundong paid the money and instantly felt that she was poor again. She really could not afford to spend this money. She had to earn more quickly. Shao Qingyuan saw that she was frowning as soon as she left the brokerage shop. He thought for a moment and asked, "Is there no more silver? I'll go up the mountain tomorrow to see if there are any tigers." There was also the roe deer. Last time, she said that she had never eaten a roe deer. It was just that he had been busy recently and could not find the time to go up the mountain. Yundong immediately shook her head. "You have to go deep into the mountains to fight the tigers. It's so cold now. You'll freeze if you stay in the mountains for 2 days. Besides, it's not that easy to fight the tigers. Do you think you can encounter them so easily? It's better not to go. It's too dangerous." Shao Qingyuan smiled. "Okay, I won't go." The 2 of them got into the carriage. The Tong family was still at the brokerage shop. Yundong asked them to pack their things first. She would pick them up in the afternoon when they returned from Jinshu restaurant. Jinshu restaurant was still some distance away. When Yundong and the others arrived, the entire restaurant was surrounded with carriages. According to the waiter, the stable in the restaurant could not accommodate all the horses at all. They could only block the road. There were too many people. Previously, Yundong had only heard that this bet had blown up quite a bit. Now, it seemed that it had blown up too much. How much did Liu Wei hate Tao Xing that he wanted the entire county to see him being humiliated? No wonder even Wenzheng had made a move to persuade her to stop this bet. The waiter had received Liu Wei's instructions and brought Yundong and the rest to the best private room on the 2nd floor. After knocking on the door, a weak voice came from inside. "Come in." Yundong and Shao Qingyuan looked at each other. What was going on? The 2 of them pushed open the door and entered. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered, she saw Liu Wei hanging his head low and looking dejected. Even his hair was messy, and his clothes were messy too. He looked like he was in pain. "What happened to you?" Yundong asked softly. Did something happen to the bet? Should she comfort him? When Liu Wei heard her voice, he suddenly raised his head. His movements were so fierce that he almost twisted his neck. In the next moment, the dejected look on his face disappeared and he exhaled. "So it's you guys." He wiped his hair and crossed his legs. He looked like an arrogant profligate's son, completely different from his previous image. "Who did you think we were, then?" "I thought that Tao Xing and the others were here to laugh at me in advance, so I deliberately pretended to be defeated and had nothing to live for to make them happy. That way, the happier they are now, the worse they will fall later. Ha 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 ha." This person's bad taste was quite strong. Yundong sat at the table and poured himself and Shao Qingyuan a cup of tea. She reached out to open the window. Liu Wei immediately stopped her. "No, no, no. There are so many people downstairs. If everyone sees how confident I am later, it will be boring." Yundong could only retract her hand and ask him, "Is there anything delicious in your restaurant? I'm hungry. Let's eat first. There are still more than 2 hours left." "Yes, I'll get someone to serve the dishes immediately." As he spoke, he opened the door of the private room with messy hair and shouted to the waiter outside, "Serve me the signature dishes of the restaurant. Hurry up." Two young masters happened to pass by outside the door. When they heard this, they immediately smiled. Young Master Liu, you clearly know that you're going to lose, so you're starting to give up on yourself? There's no need to waste the food, right? Chapter 184, Old Master Liu is here. Another person also smiled and said, that's right. You don't care about your image at all. After all, you're a handsome man in Fengkai County. How can you go crazy just because of 5 shops? The only response they got was the sound of Liu Wei slamming the door. The two young masters looked at each other and sneered. He's angry from embarrassment. How pitiful. After this, Liu Wei will probably be completely abandoned by the Liu family. Won't there be one less person at our gathering in the future? Ha ha ha, isn't there still Tao Xing? He won a few shops this time. Wouldn't he be more generous and invite everyone out to celebrate? The two of them were getting further and further away. Liu Wei leaned behind the door and listened for a long time with his butt raised. In the end, he snorted and said proudly, "They'll see how your eyeballs pop out later. You only know how to make sarcastic remarks. When I win, I won't treat you. Just feel sorry for yourselves." Gu Yundong was speechless. Shao Qingyuan, have some tea. Liu Wei happily returned to his seat and drank the white sugar water. The taste was extremely beautiful. Gu Yundong felt that his appearance was too eye-piercing. She did not know if she could eat later. She regretted not eating outside in advance. The waiters quickly served the food and reported the situation outside. There were more and more people now, and Tao Xing had arrived early. He was in another private room. Those young masters had already occupied the private rooms. The hall downstairs was also filled with people. Even outside the door, there were many commoners watching the commotion. This matter had blown up too much. Previously, it was just circulating among young masters like the Tao family and the Liu family. Later, after the stake was increased, even the commoners knew. Gu Yundong really admired these two people. They could cause such a ruckus in a bet. They were really capable. As they were eating, Luan suddenly rushed in. "Young master, old master is here." Liu Wei was stunned and stood up abruptly. "My father is here?" "It's over, it's over, it's over." Gu Yundong swallowed the chicken in her mouth and looked up. She asked curiously, "You haven't told your father?" She had said not to tell anyone for the time being, but it was already the agreed date. He still hadn't told his father? Liu Wei's body stiffened. He laughed dryly and stammered, "You can't blame me. I was too excited and forgot. Of course, I wanted to tell my father this morning, but he went out early in the morning. I didn't see him." Gu Yundong was speechless. At this moment, the door of the private room was opened. Old Master Liu walked in angrily. Liu Wei suddenly jumped up and instantly retreated behind Shao Qingyuan. Gu Yundong put down her chopsticks and wiped her mouth. She greeted, "Old Master Liu." Old Master Liu glared fiercely at Liu Wei before looking at Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan. A moment later, his expression changed and he smiled. "You're Miss Gu, right?" Gu Yundong blinked. Old Master Liu looked quite happy. She thought that he would be angry that she had harmed his son. She did not expect him to smile. She nodded. Old Master Liu walked over and sighed. "Miss Gu is so capable at such a young age. You're not inferior to men." Gu Yundong was stunned again. "Does old Master Liu know?" "Yes, I just came from Master Qin's place." Liu Wei immediately exploded when he heard that. "Father, since you know, why did you look like you wanted to kill me just now? If I don't put on an act, will the people outside believe that you're going to destroy my family assets?" Chapter 185. The older the wiser. The three juniors in the private room instantly felt deep veneration. Indeed, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Yundong finally knew who Liu Wei had inherited his personality from. It seemed that Liu Yi would have a hard time in the future. Not only did he have to take care of his elder brother, but he also had to take care of his father. Old Master Liu snorted proudly and walked to Liu Wei's original seat. He sat down and said to him, "Where's the white sugar? I haven't seen it before. Show it to me." Liu Wei eagerly took the white sugar out of the cloth bag in the round vat in a large wooden basket in the corner. The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. "You hid it too well." Liu Wei scooped a little with a small bowl and placed it in front of Old Master Liu. Old Master Liu immediately beamed with joy when he saw this. He twisted a little and put it in his mouth before nodding repeatedly. "Sweet, sweet, good, good." He turned to look at Yundong with a smile, but quickly shook his head regretfully. "Actually, it's not a bad idea to cooperate with the Liu family. You're Wire's friend, so Uncle Liu won't take advantage of you." As he spoke, he glared at his son resentfully. How useless. They were clearly friends, and he knew her ability immediately. He did not know how to win over such a talent. What was the use of giving birth to such a son? Yundong could only say, "Of course I trust you, Uncle Liu. It's just that white sugar has just been invented. It might not be a good thing no matter who takes it. But don't worry, Uncle Liu. In the future, I'll give you the cheapest price for the white sugar that the Liu family's restaurants need." "Ha, that's a deal." Old Master Liu nodded. He also understood that this formula was indeed the most suitable to be offered to the imperial court. As they were talking, a commotion suddenly came from downstairs. Faintly, someone called out to Liu Wei, "Young Master Liu, how long are you going to hide in the private room? Come out, everyone is here." "That's right. As a man, you can't go back on your words. It's just 5 shops, right? If you lose, so be it. What's so horrible about it? Young Master Liu, don't tell me you were beaten up by your father and don't dare to come out." "Old Master Liu, you can't stop young Master Liu." Liu Wei snorted. "These bastards." As he spoke, he was about to open the window of the private room. Unexpectedly, the window of the other private room opposite opened first. A young man's voice quickly sounded. "What's with the noise? It's not time yet. You're disturbing my mood for food. Why are you in a hurry to watch the show?" Liu Wei's hand that was opening the window paused, and a smile hung on his face. Yundong asked curiously, "Who is it?" Qingyuan, the young master of the county magistrate of Fengkai County. Yundong remembered that when they first met, Liu Wei had told him that he knew the county magistrate's son. "He seems pretty protective of you." Liu Wei was a little proud. As expected of the county magistrate's son, Qingyuan's words carried weight. The arrogant shouts downstairs immediately weakened. Although there were still whispers, no one dared to openly provoke him. However, not long after, the agreed time arrived, and the commotion downstairs could not be suppressed. The moment Tao Xing stepped out of the room on the second floor and walked down the stairs, the commotion reached the peak. Someone told Liu Wei to hurry downstairs and stop hiding away. Yundong even heard a familiar voice from these shouts. Chapter 186, Girl, come down together. Liu Wei, hurry up. If you don't come down, well, go up and carry you down. This voice was cheap and loud, instantly drowning out the laughter of the others. Yundong was still wondering where she had heard this voice when Shao Qingyuan reminded him in a low voice, "It's Peng Zhongfei." Huh. It was him. Yundong could not help but look at Liu Wei. "Aren't you friends with Peng Zhongfei?" "He's just a bad friend. He and Tao Xing are also friends. They drink together and go to brothels together. At the critical moment, they would watch from the side. How could they really support each other?" Old Master Liu coughed lightly. Liu Wei was stunned for a moment and immediately reacted. "Don't misunderstand. I went to the brothel to recite poems, play the zither, and recite music to relieve the bitterness in my heart. Oh, Yundong looked like she understood. She finally understood what the place that Liu Yi had said she should not visit was. Liu Wei was speechless. He felt that she didn't believe his words at all, but as heaven and earth could see, he really didn't do anything he shouldn't have. Just as he was feeling depressed, another cry sounded from downstairs. Liu Wei was annoyed. He suddenly pushed open the window and shouted below, "All right, all right. What are you shouting for? Are you in a hurry to die? I'll come down now." As soon as he opened the window, the people downstairs not only saw him, but also Yundong, who was standing by the window. Tao Xing thought of what his shopkeeper had said before. He narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "Liu Wei, you'd better come down quickly. Don't make everyone wait. By the way, the person beside you is the girl who can make white sugar, right? Invite her down together. How about letting her repeat what she said in my grocery store?" Yundong raised her eyebrows. "No, you won't be able to be smug in a while." She really just wanted to watch the show. After all, Tao Xing's goal was only Liu Wei. She didn't expect him to mention her. Liu Wei snorted coldly. "If you want me to go down, go down." He closed the window and said to Luan, "Carry the basket down. Let's teach them a lesson." Luan was also very excited. During this period of time, Tao Xing's servants would laugh at him every time they saw him. They would say that he had a brainless master and that he had become stupid. He had restrained himself from retorting on the spot. This time, he could finally hold his head high. After waiting for so long, today finally came. Luan took out the cloth bag from the vat and placed it on the basket. Then, he carried the basket on his back in high spirits and followed Liu Wei downstairs. Old Master Liu was still up there. After all, the people below were all juniors. If he went down, he would be giving them too much face. He comfortably made himself a cup of sugar water and sat on the chair, enjoying it with his eyes slightly narrowed. However, when the people downstairs saw that he was not coming down, they felt that he was too ashamed. But it didn't matter. He could still feel it upstairs. Liu Wei went downstairs. Along the way, people on the stairs, along the aisle, and in the lobby downstairs all moved aside to make way for them. Tao Xing sat in the middle of the hall with a smile. There was a table in front of him with a few pieces of paper on it. They were the bet agreement between him and Liu Wei, as well as the contracts for the 5 shops. He glanced at Liu Wei, then at Yundong. She was quite good-looking, but she didn't have any brains. She was also dressed in old-fashioned clothes. It was said that she came from the countryside and didn't know much. She dared to say anything. Liu Wei was actually charmed by such a person. This generation of the Liu family was probably finished. Peng Zhongfei, who was sitting beside him, also saw Yundong and immediately stood up. Chapter 187, Broadening Their Horizons. Previously, Peng Zhongfei did not see clearly who the woman in the private room on the second floor was. Now, he knew that it was Yundong. For some reason, he felt a little flustered. Perhaps because he had made too much noise, Tao Xing turned his head and looked at him. "What's wrong?" "No, nothing." Peng Zhongfei sat back down silently. Just now, he was the one who caused the most trouble. Now, he was as quiet as a chicken and did not say anything. However, Peng Zhongfei was still puzzled. When did Yundong and Liu Wei become so close? Tao Xing glanced at him strangely and ignored him. He reached out and knocked on the table. "Put up the contracts for the 5 shops." Liu Wei's hair was still a little messy. He sat on the chair brought over by the waiter angrily. He first flipped through the contract on Tao Xing's desk. Seeing that the addresses were indeed the ones they had agreed on previously, he was satisfied and took out his copy. Tao Xing also took a look and immediately smiled. They had been coveting the Liu family's shops for a long time. Now, they finally took this opportunity to set a trap for Liu Wei and make him willingly lose. Both sides placed their bets on the table and invited the two middlemen who had witnessed their bet. It was actually useless to say that they were middlemen. Now that everyone in the county knew, most of them had gone to the restaurant to witness it with their own eyes. If anyone dared to break the contract in front of everyone, not only would they lose all their face, but their family's reputation would also be affected, which would be bad for their business. All right, young Master Liu, let's not waste our breath. Back then, our Tao family's shopkeeper heard with his own ears that this girl said that she could make white sugar that was as white as clouds, right? As Tao Xing spoke, he looked at Yundong. The latter nodded. It's indeed what I said. Moreover, your shopkeeper said at that time that if I made it, your family would buy it at 10 times the price. Tao Xing nodded, indicating that he did not deny it. Now that so many days have passed, we've given you enough time. So, where's the sugar? That's right. Where's the sugar? The person beside him asked with a smile. I've never seen sugar as white as clouds. Haha, you really dare to say that? Why don't you just admit defeat? It's not a big deal. If you're willing to bet and admit defeat, you can still be a man. However, young Master Liu, you should open your eyes wide in the future. Don't be friends with everyone in the corner and harm others and yourself. Yundong was speechless. She smiled. In a while, she would be able to hear the beautiful slaps on their faces. Liu Wei glanced at them from the corner of his eyes. If you've never seen it before, it means that you're ignorant. You really think too highly of yourselves. As he spoke, he waved his hand and flipped his hair. Luan, broaden their horizons. Yes, young master, Luan replied excitedly. He bent down and took out the cloth bag from the basket with great effort. Everyone was confused. Could it be that there really was something? Tao Xing also frowned slightly and straightened his body. Ever since Peng Zhongfei heard that Yundong might have made the sugar, he felt that Liu Wei was going to win. This person had the protection of that mysterious old man. What could she not do? As soon as the cloth bag was pulled open, the people around the table craned their necks to look inside. Then, their pupils dilated slightly. This is, Liu Wei waved his hand. Go away. He took a bowl, scooped out a bowl, and placed it on the table with a bang. Come, try it. I'll show you what white sugar is. Chapter 188. These animals. Everyone stared at the white particles in front of them and could not help but swallow their saliva. However, after watching for a long time, no one made a move. They only raised their heads and looked at each other. Liu Wei was getting impatient. Do you want to eat it or not? Hurry up. Don't make it look like I'm going to poison you to death. Qingyuan was the first to go forward. He pinched it with his hand and put it into his mouth. Then, his eyes suddenly lit up. It's sweet. It's really sugar. Of course, Liu Wei said proudly. In the next moment, the onlookers at the table rushed forward and pushed Liu Wei away. They didn't even care about their basic manners and reached into their bowls with one hand each. Fortunately, Yundong was quick. Shao Qingyuan pulled him to the side and avoided the noisy crowd. Soon, exclamations sounded in the hall one after another. Oh my God, it's really sugar. It's refreshing. Just like clouds, young Master Liu was not bragging. Haha, this is good. This is good. I like it. Delicious. The chatter made the people watching from the outside itch. They wanted to squeeze in and take a look with their own eyes, but there were too many people. They could not even see them, let alone squeeze in. When Liu Wei was pulled out by Luan, his hair was even messier, and his clothes were torn into a mess as if someone had molested him. At this moment, he still remembered to take out the bag of white sugar tightly in his arms, afraid that it would be swallowed by these wolves and tigers. When he was outside the crowd, he heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. These animals look like they haven't seen candy in 8 lifetimes. He looked up and saw Yundong and Shao Qingyuan standing far away. Not even a strand of hair was messy. He was so angry that his hands trembled. You're too much. Why didn't you help me when you came out? We're doing this for your own good. If we hadn't come out early, your 5 shops might have flown away, Yundong said and pointed at the other end of the crowd. On the other side, Tao Xing was being escorted out by his servant. Liu Yi glared at him and shouted, Tao Xing, are you trying to go back on your word? Perhaps because his voice was too sharp, it drowned out the noisy crowd. The people around the table instantly quietened down and looked in Tao Xing's direction. Tao Xing cursed in his heart and slowly straightened up. He tidied up his clothes that were also messed up and turned to look at Liu Yi. What nonsense are you talking about? Going back on my word? I just saw too many people being squeezed out. Didn't you come out too? It would be strange if Liu Yi believed him. He trembled and went forward. Alright, since you're not going to go back on your word, we can fulfill the bet now. You have eaten the white sugar too. How is it? It's the same as the white clouds, right? He saw 2 grains of white sugar stuck to the corner of Tao Xing's mouth. Tao Xing's face darkened. Liu Yi had already spread out his hands. Give me the contracts. Tao Xing was indignant and clenched his fists. He wanted to go back on his word. Those were 5 shops, and they were considered good 5 shops in the Tao family. At that time, he had promised in front of his father that he would not lose, so his father had given him the deeds. In the end, not only did he not win back the Liu family's shops, but he also suffered heavy losses. Wouldn't he be beaten to death by his father when he returned home? Most importantly, his eldest brother would definitely take this opportunity to suppress him. Tao Xing pursed his lips. When he looked up, he suddenly saw Yundong standing at the side. Chapter 189, Peng Zhongfei, the fence-sitters. When Liu Yi saw his eyes rolling around, he knew that this guy was definitely up to no good. Sure enough, in the next moment, he heard Tao Xing point at Yundong and say, I admit that this white sugar is real. But our bet was that you could make such snow-white white sugar. Can you guarantee that you really made this white sugar and you didn't find it from somewhere? Yundong did not expect the fire to burn her. She glanced at Liu Yi and nodded. I made it. Do you want me to swear? What's the use of swearing? Tao Xing snorted. Why don't you do it again in front of all of us? That way, we will believe that you created this thing. Yundong was so angry that she almost laughed. In front of everyone? How could he say that? However, the surrounding people did not mind the commotion and started to jeer. That's right, that's right. Make it again in front of everyone so that we can see how this white sugar came about. Tao Xing proudly looked at Liu Yi provocatively. Unexpectedly, he had only been smug for 2 seconds when he heard an unexpected voice. Then why don't you tell everyone the secret recipe of your Tao family's wine in front of everyone once? Let everyone see if your family brewed it. Otherwise, how would we know where your family bought it from? The Tao family mainly operated a winery that had been around for many years. It had been passed down from their ancestors for more than 100 years. Tao Xing frowned and turned around. He saw Peng Zhongfei standing up and tidying his clothes. Peng was indeed unreliable. Wherever there was benefit, he would change sides. In fact, Peng Zhongfei was not the only one. Many people present saw the benefits brought by the white sugar. At this moment, they felt that there was no need to become enemies with the Liu family and this girl. Hence, they nodded one after another. That makes sense. The formula of the white sugar must be a complicated secret. I don't know how much effort it took to create it. How can it be publicized in front of everyone? Duan Qingyuan also smiled and said, Young Master Tao has admitted to this white sugar. And you didn't say that they have to publicize the secret recipe in front of everyone when you made the bet back then. Now, you're finding all kinds of excuses to make things difficult for others. Are you trying to go back on your word? That won't do. Everyone is watching. Is the Tao family so untrustworthy? Liu Yi laughed out loud. He deliberately made it sound more serious. He didn't believe that if the matter had already escalated to the Tao family, he would still dare to make excuses. As expected, Tao Xing's face darkened. He immediately laughed dryly. Of course, the Tao family won't go back on their word. I didn't consider everything just now and said something I shouldn't have said. I, Tao Xing, will keep my word and fulfill the bet. Liu Yi flipped up his right hand. The contracts. Tao Xing gritted his teeth and lowered his head slightly. His eyes became gloomy. He asked the servant behind him to bring the contracts over and personally handed them to Liu Yi. Liu Yi flipped through them in front of everyone. After reading them again and again, he was finally satisfied. Don't forget to visit the government later. With that, he turned around and left. However, just as he took a step forward, he suddenly stopped as if he had thought of something. Then, he took out the white sugar in his hand. I almost forgot. Back then, your shopkeeper said that he would buy this white sugar back at 10 times the price. It's just right. 20 caddies for 80 taels of silver. Tao Xing was stunned. This white sugar was a rare thing. It was not a bad idea to buy it back. However, 80 taels was too expensive. Just as he was about to say that Liu Yi had scooped out a bowlful previously and wanted to lower the price, a voice suddenly sounded in his ear. I'll pay 100 taels. Give me these 20 caddies of white sugar. Chapter 190, Almost corrupted by money, I offer 110 taels. 120 taels. 150 taels. One after another, voices sounded in the hall. These young masters were not short of money, especially those from families who did business. How could this 180 taels compare to such rare white sugar? Liu Yi's eyes lit up. He didn't expect this bag of white sugar to be auctioned. But this sugar belonged to Yundong. He turned to ask for her opinion. Yundong's eyes were also sparkling. Let the prodigal sons come more fiercely. She was very short of money now. However, reality was cruel. Soon, a steward who had been following Old Master Liu came down and walked to their side. He said softly, Old Master said that it's not wrong for Miss Gu to want to take the opportunity to earn more money, but it's not good to go too far. After all, Miss Gu is about to start a white sugar business. This will be no longer unique. The young master who bought the white sugar later will feel that the price was too high and you might make enemies. The impression of Miss Gu on the people present will also worsen. In the future, the business will be affected. Peace is still the most important thing in doing business. When Shao Qingyuan heard this, he nodded slightly. Old Master Liu is right. Moreover, it's best to sell the candy to the Tao family. Yundong knew that Old Master Liu was teaching him. He was afraid that she would not be able to withstand the temptation at such a young age. She was someone who could listen to opinions. Her eyes quickly calmed down from its all money. She took a deep breath and said to the manager, Thank you, Uncle Liu. Yundong understands. The steward went up with relief. Yundong saw that the bids were getting more and more ridiculous. Some people even raised the price to 400 taels for the sake of personal feelings. Moreover, it seemed that the others had no intention of stopping. She secretly wiped her sweat. She had almost been corrupted by money. Everyone, be quiet. Yundong suddenly spoke. The group of people who were arguing until their faces were red immediately stopped. They heard her say, I'm really sorry, everyone. I still have to give this sugar to the Tao family. After all, we agreed back then. Tao Xing was angry at first, but when he heard this, he was instantly happy. Unexpectedly, Yundong continued, It's just that young Master Liu was wrong about one thing. Back then, the shopkeeper said that he would buy it back at 10 times the price, so it was 10 times the price of this white sugar. And this white sugar will be released soon. At that time, the price will be 100 copper coins per tael. Here, 20 caddies is 32 taels, so 10 times the price is 320 taels. So young Master Tao, for 320 taels, this sugar is yours. This was not wrong. If Wenzheng brought it back, the imperial court would set the price at 100 copper coins per tael of white sugar. Yundong felt that the price was actually not bad. Many people could afford it. She remembered that white sugar used to be a luxury item that only the royal family could afford in England. When the people present heard this price, they felt that it was very acceptable. The bid just now had soared to 600 taels. Tao Xing almost vomited blood. Previously, he found 80 taels too expensive, but now it was 320 taels. He wouldn't pay. Whoever wanted it could have it. But before he could say anything, he heard a dignified voice behind him. Tao Xing, give it to her. The Tao family won't go back on their word and bully a girl. Tao Xing suddenly turned around and saw his father, who was originally in the private room upstairs, standing behind him with a very ugly expression. Chapter 191, Silver again. However, it was not only Master Tao who was standing there, but also Tao Xing's brother, Ao Feng, whom he hated very much. Tao Feng had a smile on his face, and his expression was filled with gloating. Old Master Tao had already walked forward and said to Liu Wei and Yundong, "The Tao family admits defeat. Young Master Liu is so capable. The friends you know are not ordinary people." Liu Wei secretly cursed the old fox in his heart, but he said with a smile, "Thank you for your praise." Under Master Tao's sharp gaze, Tao Xing finally took out 320 taels of silver and handed it to Liu Wei. Liu Wei retracted his hand and called Yundong and Shao Qingyuan upstairs. He didn't want to talk to Master Tao. Anyway, he had already gotten what he wanted. Yundong was also satisfied. She was no longer short of money. With this money, she could buy land, build a factory, and collect sugarcane. Life was getting better bit by bit. Thinking back to those days in the apocalypse, it really felt like heaven now. Yundong's footsteps were light. She had only taken 2 steps when she suddenly realized that Shao Qingyuan was not following her. She was stunned for a moment. She turned her head and saw that he was looking at a certain point with a dark gaze. Following his gaze, Yundong could not help but feel strange. Shao Qingyuan. Why was he looking at Master Tao? Why? Do you know Master Tao? Shao Qingyuan came back to his senses and shook his head slowly. He smiled at her and said, "I don't know him. Let's go up." Although Yundong was curious, he did not seem to be willing to say more, so she did not ask further. They followed Liu Wei back to the Liu family's private room. At this moment, the people in the lobby downstairs suddenly reacted and rushed upstairs in unison. "Miss, is what you said true? We'll be able to buy this white sugar soon." "That's right. Where can we buy it? Which shop? Does it really only cost 100 copper coins per tael?" "Miss, please wait. I'm the second young master of the Gao family. You can cooperate with our Gao family to sell white sugar." "Our Gao family, get lost. I'm from the Fu family. All of you, stop dreaming. Can't you see that there's a Liu family over there? That girl must have cooperated with the Liu family." As soon as he said this, the others stopped. That's right. The Liu family was richer than them. It was not their turn. However, they did not give up. Many people still went upstairs to talk to Yundong. Fortunately, Liu Wei brought them away quickly. After entering the private room, old Master Liu immediately asked his steward to go out and deal with them. Only then did they heave a sigh of relief. In contrast, the Tao family of 3 did not come up. Master Tao did not even want to stay in this restaurant for long. He turned around and left with his 2 sons. As Tao Xing walked, his eyes darted around. After getting into the carriage, he immediately went to Master Tao's side and said, "Father, are you willing to let us lose these 5 shops? That Liu family did it on purpose. That sugar was prepared long ago and they even pretended to be about to lose. They're sinister and despicable." Old Master Tao was angry and disappointed in his son. "That's because you're stupid. You fell into the trap so easily." After saying that, he closed her eyes and ignored him. Tao Xing gritted his teeth. "Father, I didn't think this through. I accept the punishment, but it's not like we can't get it back." "Oh, how do you want to get it back?" Tao Feng asked, but he looked at Tao Xing with disdain. Tao Xing didn't even look at him and continued to say to Master Tao, "Father, that Gu girl is just a country girl. We can totally force her to hand over the formula." Chapter 192, Beaten, Pa. As soon as Tao Xing finished speaking, he was slapped hard on the face. He covered his face in disbelief and glared at his father. "Dad, you hit me? Stop it. If you dare to go out and cause trouble again, I'll break your legs." Old Master Tao had been suppressing his anger. Wouldn't he be angry after losing 5 shops? Wouldn't he be angry after being laughed at by so many people? His family was arrogant and proud before, but today, they were as sarcastic and embarrassed. He had lost all his face, but he still had to personally go downstairs to clean up the aftermath for his son and protect the last bit of dignity of the Tao family. It was fine if Tao Xing did not regret it at all, but he actually came up with a bad idea. Old Master Tao wanted to endure it until he reached home before teaching him a lesson, but his thoughts flew away. He wished he could kick him out of the carriage. However, Tao Xing had always been pampered at home. His father had never hit him. Now, in front of his elder brother, "Father, why?" Master Tao took a deep breath and said to Tao Feng, "Tell him." "Second brother, why can't you understand?" Tao Feng shook his head and said with a disappointed expression, "That girl is indeed just a country girl, but the Liu family is not. Old Master Liu has been in the business world for so many years. How can he not know how much trouble this white sugar will cause once it appears? How can he not know how many people are secretly eyeing it? Since he dares to take it out, it means that he has already considered all aspects. Aren't you afraid that someone will have ill intentions?" Tao Feng sighed. "The truth is that not only can we not have any crooked thoughts, but even the Liu family can't get involved in the sugar business." Tao Feng was originally not at Jinxiu restaurant. He had specially rushed over to tell Master Tao after receiving the news so that the Tao family would not suffer. Tao Xing looked unconvinced. Even the Liu family didn't cooperate with her? Who are you kidding? How can a country girl make such a deal? She doesn't work with the Liu family, but Tao Feng pointed at the sky. You dare to touch her? Tao Xing swallowed his saliva and did not dare to say a word. Old Master Tao sneered. After you go back, stay in your courtyard and study obediently. You're not allowed to go out in a month. Leave the rest to your brother, do you hear me? Tao Xing's eyes widened. But, Tao Feng nodded with a serious expression. Father, don't worry. I'll do my best. Although we can't interfere with the white sugar matter, we can still make a deal. I'll go back to the restaurant now and talk to Miss Gu. Yeah. After Tao Feng got out of the carriage, Master Tao brought Tao Xing home. However, Tao Feng was destined to return empty-handed. While the Liu family steward was dealing with the people downstairs, Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan were taken away by Liu Wei from the back door of the restaurant. Only when the three of them got into the carriage did they slowly heave a sigh of relief. Liu Wei said, Gu girl, don't worry. My father can handle things here. You don't have to worry that those people will find your Yongfu village. Brother Qin will block them. Phew, I didn't expect these people to be so crazy. Liu Wei chuckled and suddenly moved closer to her. If Shao Qingyuan had not reached out to block him, he would have knocked Gu Yundong's head. Gu girl, you've helped me so much today. Tell me what you want. As long as I can do it, I'll definitely do it for you. What? Gu Yundong touched her chin. Of course, what she wanted the most was money. Wasn't the Liu family rich? But now... Chapter 193, Got a shop. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. I want a shop. Liu Wei was stunned for a moment before he suddenly reacted. Yes. If you want to do business, you must have shops. Coincidentally, I won 5 shops from Tao Xing today. Let me tell you, these shops are not bad. I'll give you 2. So generous? Gu Yundong knew very well that although Liu Wei had won the bet by himself, Tao Xing had placed such a huge bet because they wanted to trick the Liu family. The Liu family also needed to take out the same stake before this bet could be established. She was not greedy. She only wanted a shop. Liu Wei smiled smugly. I've always been generous. Besides, it's all thanks to you this time. Come, let me introduce you to these 5 shops. You can choose first. If possible, it was actually better to bring her to see the shops. However, the shops were not empty yet, so it was inconvenient. Gu Yundong pondered as she listened, occasionally asking for Shao Qingyuan's opinion. When Liu Wei was done explaining the pros and cons, Gu Yundong knew what to do. I want the shop in the east of the city with a backyard. That shop was in a good location and was not far from Wenzheng school. It also had a rather large backyard that could accommodate people. In the future, if Yunshu's school was inconvenient for him to go home, he could have a place to stay. There was also a well in the backyard, and there were 3 to 4 rooms. The surroundings of the shop were also lively. Many wealthy families in Fengkai County lived in that area, and the scenery was not bad. Gu Yundong only wanted this shop. Firstly, this shop was the largest and best among them. Although the others were not bad, they did not make her particularly tempted. Secondly, she had just received more than 300 taels of silver from Tao Xing. It would be too greedy to ask for another shop. Although Liu Wei didn't mind, she didn't know what the other members of the Liu family were thinking. Gu Yundong knew when to stop. Besides, she would soon have a source of income. If she wanted a shop in the future, she would buy it herself. Liu Wei tried to persuade her a few times but to no avail. He could only give up and go straight to the government office to give her the shop. As they chatted, they arrived at the brokerage in Hulu Alley. The 6 members of the Tong family were already waiting for her, but Gu Yundong only had 1 carriage. If there were too many people, it would seem too crowded. The Tong family expressed that they could walk on their own, but Gu Yundong did not agree. Anyway, Liu Wei was here, so it was the same to borrow his carriage. It was getting late. The group got into the carriage and went straight to the city gate. However, not long after the carriage left, Gu Yundong suddenly stopped it. She was sitting in Liu Wei's carriage, and the driver was Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan stopped the carriage and saw Gu Yundong jump down and enter a shop in front of him. He looked up and realized that it was a clothing shop. It seemed to be the Peng family's shop. Gu Yundong came out after a while. He carried a bag and got into the carriage. Let's go. Shao Qingyuan took a few more glances curiously, but he didn't ask. The carriage quickly left the city gate and headed straight for Yongfu village. The 2 carriages entered the village one after another and went straight to the foot of the mountain. The villagers were already used to it. On the other hand, apart from Boss Tong, who was driving the carriage, the rest of the Tong family stayed in the carriage obediently. They did not even lift the curtain. However, they were still a little nervous. When the master girl bought them, she did not say much. Now, they knew that they had entered the village. Chapter 194, Gu Yunshu's worry. The carriage stopped in front of the Zheng family's house. The 6 members of the Tong family alighted one by one. They looked up and saw the dilapidated mud brick house in front of them. Even though they were mentally prepared, they still found it unbelievable. Especially after Gu Yundong brought them into the courtyard and they saw the narrow road with the low courtyard walls, they looked at each other. The master's house was actually like this? The Tong family really could not understand. The master had spent so much money on them. Why did she not use it to repair the house? Until Gu Yundong said to them, "Our house has just been built. We can only move in the day after tomorrow. Well, make do here for the next 2 days. The men will squeeze in the Shao family next door first, and the women will stay here. This is Auntie Dong. This is her home. Auntie Dong has already helped pack your room. Go take a look and put down your luggage." Dong Xilan knew that she had gone out early in the morning to buy people, so she quickly tidied up the unoccupied room in her house. The Shao family could also vacate a room, so they could arrange it. The Tong family hurriedly nodded. After Gu Yundong introduced the others, the women followed Dong Xilan into the house, and the man followed Shao Qingyuan to the next room. When they went out, they happened to see the Gu family's green brick-tiled house. All of them were a little surprised. They did not expect such a house to exist in the countryside. They wondered who lived inside. The Tong family were all people with work to do in their eyes. Especially when they were in an unfamiliar place, they were more or less trembling in fear. Therefore, as soon as they put down their things, they immediately came out to help chop firewood, fetch water, and cook dinner. Dinner was quite sumptuous. After all, there were more people in the house and they had earned more money. It was something to celebrate. During dinner, Gu Yundong mentioned that there was an additional shop in the house. The Zheng family was very surprised. "You have a shop. Where is it? How big is it? Are you planning to sell white sugar?" Gu Yundong nodded. "It's used to sell white sugar. It's in the east of the city. However, the shop hasn't been vacated yet. It can only be used in a few days. When the time comes, you'll have to ask Uncle Feng to help change the layout inside. When it opens, everyone will join in the fun." Madame Dong was very happy. "All right, I'll definitely go." Gu Yunshu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had been worried that his family would run out of money after buying servants. He had been debating the entire day whether he should owe the teacher his tuition fees first and pay them in a few years. Now that he heard from his eldest sister that his family had a shop and a source of income, there was no problem. Gu Yunshu was relieved. He had an extra big bowl of food for dinner. Gu Yundong turned around and saw the expression on his face. She suddenly had a headache. Why did her brother think that his family was so poor that they could not even pay his tuition? She clearly acted like she was rich. If he was worried at such a young age, he might not grow up tall in the future. After dinner, the Tong family members began to clean up. Gu Yundong returned to her room. After a while, she came out with the bag she had brought back from the county. Everyone was busy and did not see her. Gu Yundong came out of the Zheng family's back door and went straight to the next door. Shao Qingyuan was feeding the horses. The Liu family's carriage was temporarily resting at his house. Liu Wei had said that he could return it when he was free. When he saw Gu Yundong enter, he was slightly stunned and could not help but stop what he was doing. Chapter 195. The clothes are gifted. Gu Yundong patted the bag in her hand with a smile and handed it to him. "This is for you." "What?" Shao Qingyuan could tell. Wasn't this what she had taken out when she entered the ready-to-wear shop? Clothes. Shao Qingyuan looked at her and then at the bag in her hand. After a while, he held his breath and opened the bag. In the next moment, a navy blue dress was revealed. It was brand new and it made one's eyes light up. He looked up in shock, his voice slightly hoarse. You're giving it to me?" Gu Yundong coughed lightly. "That's right. I saw that the last time you went hunting in the mountains, when you came back, your clothes had already become strips. I didn't see you buy new clothes, so I took the cloth and went to the tailor's to get someone to make a set. After all, you'll be working with me in the future. You have to wear better clothes. Otherwise, people will think that I took all your money." As she spoke, she heaved a sigh of relief. She had finally found an excuse to give it away. The corners of Shao Qingyuan's lips curled up uncontrollably. He reached out to touch the new clothes, but immediately retracted his hand. He stuffed the bag back into Gu Yundong's arms and turned around to run to the water vat. He scooped 2 ladles of water and began to wash his hands carefully. Gu Yundong was confused at first and thought that he did not like it. Unexpectedly, after washing his hands, he began to carefully stroke his clothes, his face full of joy. At that moment, she suddenly felt sad and bitter. Auntie Dong had told her about Shao Qingyuan's background. She said that his adoptive parents had disliked him since he was young. He had picked up clothes that others had sewn and mended and didn't want to wear. How could clothes that others didn't wear be good? Especially in winter, the cotton was already hard and completely cold. He had to wear it for a few years, but he grew up quickly and was often laughed at. It was only after his grandfather passed away that he went to the ready-to-wear shop to buy 2 sets of clothes and changed back and forth. This was probably the first time he had received clothes from someone. "Ahem, do you like it?" Shao Qingyuan immediately nodded. When he looked up at Gu Yundong, his eyes were bright. "You know my size? Isn't your focus wrong? I've made a rough estimate. I don't know if it fits. You can try it later. If it doesn't fit, you can change it." "It fits," Shao Qingyuan said without thinking. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She suddenly could not stand his gaze and hurriedly said, "That's all for now. Independent Illinois, go back." After saying that, she quickly left. Shao Qingyuan didn't move. He just stared at her back until she left. Then, he lowered his eyes to look at the bag in his hand, and the smile on his lips grew wider. He quickly turned around and entered the house, taking out his clothes to change into. It really fit him. It felt warm and comfortable on his body. However, in the next moment, he quickly took it off and gently folded it to the side. Then, he put on his original tattered clothes and went out the door with his bow and arrow. He went straight up the mountain. Gu Yundong did not know that. She had fallen asleep after returning to the Zheng family. Actually, she had also thought of asking Madame Dong to help make the clothes. However, that day, she took out the fabric for some reason. When she arrived at the county city, she asked the shopkeeper of the tailor shop to help make a set. Chapter 196. Familiar. Gu Yundong rubbed her brows, turned over, and fell asleep. The next day, she went to look for Qinliang to buy land. Qinliang was so shocked that he almost spat out his water. Buy land again? How come she still have money? I'm buying a homestead this time. I want to build a workshop. A workshop? Qinliang's eyes lit up. Their village was not very rich, and the villagers relied on those acres of land to make a living. Some villages had workshops. Even if it was a small village that specialized in carpentry, the village was also famous among those towns and counties. The villagers more or less benefited from it, and their families were much better. Now, there would actually be a workshop in their village? Qinliang was a little excited. He stood up and paced around the central room. After a long while, she finally calmed down and asked about serious matters. "What is your workshop doing? How big is it? Do you have any idea? If you build a workshop, it won't be a joke." "Of course. Don't worry, Uncle Qin. My workshop plans to make sugar. I want to buy 5 acres of land first and build it after spring." It was too late to build it now. The sugarcane was seasonal. When her workshop was completed, the sugarcane would be gone. Besides, Feng Danning was currently helping 2 other families to build houses. He could not spare the time. As for this period of time, she could only see if she could rent a place. Qingyuan listened to her roughly and nodded repeatedly. In the end, he waved his hand and said, "All right, 5 acres of land, or the one at the foot of the mountain." That's right. However, they still had to walk away from the house. Otherwise, it would be too noisy and it would be messy. Qingyuan pointed out a few places to her. After confirming it, he said that it would be done soon. But before Yundong left, he stammered, "Well, Yundong, once your workshop is built, can you hire the locals from the village first?" Yundong was stunned. He smiled and said, "Of course. The uncles and aunts in the village have helped me a lot recently. I will definitely think of them. But I will definitely hire people who are diligent and efficient. Forget about those who are sneaky." Of course, of course." Qingyuan nodded repeatedly, extremely happy. Yundong really felt that he was a good village chief. He was focused on helping the villagers. Compared to the previous head of the Gu family, he was worlds apart. She went back, but Qingyuan was still standing at the door with a silly smile on his lips. Madame Zhou walked out and sighed slightly. The Gu family's girl will be amazing in the future. Don't you think we should listen to what she said last time? She was referring to the school where Niu Dan went to that Yundong came to talk about. Actually, they were quite satisfied with that teacher and felt that he had taught them correctly. Shouldn't students just read books? Why would the adults in the family need them for farm work? Even if the teacher didn't say anything, they wouldn't let Niu Dan go to the fields. However, Yundong said that the child had to have good stamina for the exams in the future. By helping the family, he could understand how difficult it was for his parents and family. He would cherish them even more. In any case, what she said made sense. However, she was only a 13-year-old girl after all. The teacher of the school was so old and was an elementary scholar. How could he be wrong? But look at Yundong now. Wasn't she advancing step by step? Qingyuan was also thinking about this question. After a while, he said, "Let me think about it." When Yundong returned to the Zheng family, he realized that only his mother was there. The Tong family's mother said, "Master Shao next door caught a roe deer." Everyone went to help. Yundong was surprised. Shao Qingyuan entered the mountain. Shao Qingyuan returned after getting a roe deer. As soon as he entered, he took a shower and changed into his new clothes. When Dong Xilan entered, she happened to see him coming out in high spirits. She could not help but take a few more glances. The color of the clothes felt familiar. Chapter 197. Clothes make a man. Not only did Dong Xilan take a second look at him, but the others in the courtyard were also stunned when they saw him coming out in a new set of clothes. Shao Qingyuan's usual clothes were gray and especially old. Now that he was dressed like this, he surprisingly looked handsome and noble. He was not inferior to Liu Wei from the county. When Yundong entered, she saw this scene and her eyes lit up. Indeed, clothes were everything. Shao Qingyuan's good looks had been ruined by him. But soon, when Yundong's gaze landed on the roe deer on the ground, she frowned again. "Did you go into the mountains last night?" Shao Qingyuan suddenly thought of what she had said previously and thought that she was angry. He immediately explained, "I wasn't deep in the mountains. There's no danger." Yundong pursed her lips and muttered softly, "It's late at night. Even if you didn't go deep into the mountains, it's still dangerous. Besides, the weather was so cold. Can't you hunt during the day?" "All right, I won't go next time." Yundong was speechless. She only muttered a few words and did not say that she wanted to order him around. Her ears were quite sharp. She coughed lightly and glanced at him again. "The clothes fit you quite well." With that, she turned to look at the roe deer. She squatted down and poked it. It was actually quite fat. "Perfect. We're moving tomorrow. I originally planned to roast meat to celebrate. Now, I don't have to go to town to buy meat. When Shao Qingyuan heard this, he immediately pointed at the wild chickens and rabbits beside him. There's still a lot over there. It should be enough to eat tomorrow. He was too excited last night and was full of energy. He had caused a lot of trouble on the way up the mountain. Yunka ran to Yundong's side and held her hand. Eldest sister, is the roast meat delicious? It's delicious. I guarantee you'll drool. The little girl's eyes immediately lit up. Then it'll help. She looked around and pointed at the pheasant. Help pluck the feathers. Go on. The little girl obediently ran to the pile of prey and began to pluck it. In the end, she was pecked by the pheasant that was still alive. The little girl covered her small hand and patted the pheasant's head. If you peck me again, I'll eat you. Yundong's mouth twitched when she saw this. When she saw Xingyu step forward, she did not care anymore. However, the girl from the Tong family asked her curiously, Eldest miss, where are we moving to tomorrow? The girl from the Tong family was called Tong Shuitao. She was 14 years old and looked soft and weak, but she was stronger than her father. She could lift the roe deer in front of her with one hand. Perhaps because they were slowly getting familiar with each other and knew that their master was not as fierce as before, they became a little bolder. Yundong liked her. She worked hard and was smart. She was a little surprised. We're moving to the new house opposite. Didn't you see it when you went out? It's quite a big building. Tong Shuitao widened her eyes and opened her mouth wide. Of course she saw it. So, that was the master's house, where they would live in the future? Yundong laughed. She thought that even if she did not say it, they would be able to guess it. Alright, let's prepare the roe deer and the wild chicken and rabbits first. Tong Shuitao blushed and went to pick up the roe deer. Yundong then went to look for Dong Xiulan. She wanted to ask her to make a school bag for Yunshu to carry to school. However, after looking around and not seeing anyone, she could not help but walk in. Just as she reached the door of the room on the left, she suddenly heard Dong Xiulan's voice. She seemed to have mentioned her. Chapter 198, The two of them are quite suitable for each other, I didn't see wrongly. The clothes Qingyuan is wearing belong to Yundong. Dong Xiulan was talking to her husband, Zhenghu. Do you think the two of them? Before she could finish speaking, Zhenghu interrupted her. Don't talk nonsense. This is completely ungrounded. Sigh, I'm just worried about those two children. Dong Xiulan sighed softly. It's fine for Qingyuan. He's a loner, and no one cares if he has a wife or not. He doesn't care either. He's almost 20 years old. If he delays any longer, he'll become an old bachelor in the village. Dong Xiulan fed Zhenghu a mouthful of rice. What about Yundong? Although she has a father, a mother, and a family, her father is missing, and her mother doesn't understand these things. Yundong has to take care of herself. She also has to look for her father. Now, she's focused on earning more money. What do you think her family will do when she gets married in the future? Zhenghu couldn't help but nod when he heard that. Yes, she'll be 14 years old after the new year. It's almost time to talk about marriage. With Yundong's current family background, there must be many people proposing marriage. It's just that after she gets married, it won't be easy to take care of her mother and the others. Her in-laws probably won't agree either. Those people who propose marriage are most likely after her family's house. Yundong will definitely suffer if she marries into such a family. Dong Xiulan's eyes suddenly lit up as she spoke. So I think Yundong and Qingyuan are actually quite suitable for each other. Shao Qingyuan was alone and was doing business with Yundong now. Without in-laws, he could help Yundong take care of Madame Yang and the other two in the future. He was also good-looking and capable. If others wanted to cause trouble, he could beat them out with one hand. Moreover, be it Madame Yang or Yunshu and Yunka, they all liked him. He wouldn't go after her house and money. He was a reliable person. If it weren't for the huge difference between her Xingyu and Shao Qingyuan, Dong Xiulan would have wanted him to be her son-in-law. Gu Yundong stood at the door and listened. The image of Shao Qingyuan standing in front of her in his new clothes flashed across her mind, and her heart suddenly beat faster. She suddenly reached out and slapped her face. What was she thinking? She was only 14 years old after the new year. It was still early. Gu Yundong did not look for Dong Xiulan. She turned around and left the Shao family. As soon as she reached the courtyard, she saw Shao Qingyuan. Gu Yundong thought of what Madame Dong and Zheng Hu had said and subconsciously glared at him. Shao Qingyuan was confused. Seeing her leave in a hurry, he quickly said, "I promise I won't go hunting at night again." Gu Yundong staggered and almost fell. "Who asked for your promise?" She walked even faster and only heaved a sigh of relief when she reached the Zheng family's door. However, in the next moment, a soft cry suddenly came from behind. "Hey!" Gu Yundong was shocked. She turned around and saw a head sneakily sticking out from the haystack not far away and staring at her for a long time. Gu Yundong could not help but roll her eyes. She strode over. "If you're looking for me, just come for me. Why are you sneaking around? Don't you think this is more eye-catching?" Zhuangzi paused and thought that it made sense. He stood up straight and chuckled. "You're looking for me at this time? Is there a situation?" Gu Yundong had asked Zhuangzi to keep an eye on Madame Fong and her daughter, but he had not come to her. She did not expect him to come looking for her today. Chapter 199, Discovering the Adultery. Zhuangzi smiled at her mysteriously. Slowly, that smile became vulgar. Gu Yundong could not help but take a small step back. "Stop laughing. Hurry up and say it." His smile was too ugly. Ahem. Zhuangzi coughed lightly and looked around before saying softly, "You asked me to keep an eye on the mother and daughter previously. Did you already guess that there was an affair?" "Hee, your guess is right. That Madame Fong looks innocent, but I didn't expect her to have hooked up with someone long ago." Gu Yundong was speechless. Huh? She found out that Madame Fong was having an affair? When did this happen? Why didn't she know? Zhuangzi started to smile wretchedly again. "Do you know who Madame Fong hooked up with? It's beyond your imagination. Can you get to the point? I didn't expect you to be a gossipy man. Look at how excited you are. The flesh on your face is trembling, okay? Oh, let me tell you. Madame Fang's lover is our village's widower, Zhao Dafa. Before dawn this morning, I saw the two of them secretly meet. Madame Fong even gave Zhao Dafa a bag of something. I don't know what it was. However, the two of them seemed to have quarreled later. Zhao Dafa threw the bag on the ground and left." Zhao Dafa? Gu Yundong did not know him. Although she knew most of the people in the village entrance was too far from the foot of the mountain. She did not recognize all of the people. Zhuangzi was still clicking his tongue. "Unfortunately, I was far away and didn't hear what they were arguing about. However, I didn't expect Madame Fong to actually take a fancy to Zhao Dafa. She's bold enough." "What's wrong with Zhao Dafa?" Gu Yundong asked curiously. "This Zhao Dafa, right? He's quite good-looking and comes from a good family. He's even 2 years younger than Madame Fong. However, others might not know this, but I know him very well. That Zhao Dafa likes to beat his wife." Zhuangzi said softly. Zhao Dafa's previous wife ran away because she couldn't stand Zhao Dafa beating her up. She ran away in the middle of the night. I happened to come back from Liangzi's house that day after drinking and saw it with my own eyes. However, the Zhao family said that she was sick the next day and needed to stay at home to recuperate. Half a month later, they said that she died. That Zhao family really cares about their reputation. They don't dare to say that she ran away. How far would it take for a woman to run away in this era where transportation was inconvenient and difficult? Madame Fong and Zhao Dafa? Gu Yundong felt that it was unlikely. However, she could not figure it out for the time being. She could only let Zhuangzi continue to keep an eye on them. Zhuangzi seemed to be especially enthusiastic about this matter. When he heard this, he immediately nodded and turned to run. He only ran 2 steps before he came back. He looked at Gu Yundong and said hesitantly, "Well, I have to thank you. I know that you hired my parents to do things and gave them a very high salary." Without waiting for Gu Yundong to react, he disappeared. Gu Yundong shook her head and returned to the Zheng family. Because there were many people at home, all kinds of meat were prepared quickly. The next morning, everyone hurriedly moved their things to their new home. Gu Yundong took out the barbecue grill that she had ordered previously. This thing was quite big and there was no problem with roasting meat. Previously, she had invited guests when she set up the beam. This time, she would not invite them. However, Gu Yundong still asked Gu Yunshu to invite the village chief and the Feng family over. Unexpectedly, they had not returned even after half a day. Gu Yundong decided to take a look herself. Before she reached the village chief's house, she saw an unfamiliar person looking at her. Gu Yundong was quite sharp. She turned around and saw a middle-aged man standing not far away. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.